All right, it is 6 o'clock. We're going to get this meeting started. With that, Madam Clerk, will you please conduct the roll call?
Mayor Pro Tem Castillo? Here. Councilmember Stieber?
Here.
Councilmember Terry?
Here.
Councilmember Welty?
Here.
Mayor Smith?
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
With that, Councilmember Mark Terry, would you lead us in prayer?
Yes.
Would that work? Thank
Please
you.
stand. Lord, first and foremost, we ask that you look over the troops that are currently deployed. Lord, we ask that you protect them. And Lord, that we ask that they may feel your presence. We also ask that you wrap your arms around those families who have sons and daughters who are currently deployed. And we ask that you protect them all. We ask that you look after our first responders, provide them with protection, just as they protect us. We ask these things in your name, Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Speaking of troops, Tony, will you lead us in the pledge? And thank you for your service, buddy. This one right here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, public comments, please.
We have one comment on a non-agenda item, Renee Griffiths.
Perfect. Let's go ahead and hear that now.
It's up there.
On non-agenda item. Yeah.
Skipping formalities because I have 3 minutes. I would like to address a statement on the staff report for tonight's agenda. The report states that Council Member Welty transmitted written correspondence to the City Council indicating his support for the proposed moratorium. However, during the March 11th meeting, the mayor stated at the beginning of the discussion that he had received text messages from Council Member Welty with his opinion, and later during deliberations, the mayor read that message directly from his phone. After rewatching the meeting video around the 2-hour, 24-minute mark, Mayor Smith read the text message and then looked directly at Councilmember Terry and stated, quote, "He clearly sees, especially after what took place on social media involving comments directed at him and his wife, that Councilmember Welty is in support of this. To my knowledge, that message was not distributed to the rest of the council prior to the meeting. It was not provided to the city clerk, and it was not made available to the public. It appeared to be a private text message sent to the mayor that was then read during deliberations. Because the staff report characterizes this as a written correspondence to the city council, I would like clarification on whether that message was ever formally submitted to the city clerk or entered into public record prior to the council meeting beginning, or at least provided to the council and the public at the time it was read during the meeting. I would also like to ask the city attorney to clarify whether it is consistent with the Brown Act for the opinion of an absent council member to be introduced into deliberation of the council through a private text message read by another council member during the meeting. If a council member's position is communicated privately and then relayed publicly during deliberations, it effectively allows participation by a member who is not present. In this case, the message was read during discussion immediately before the vote, and it appeared to influence direction of the discussion. Because this matter is being reconsidered tonight and the prior vote is referenced in the staff report, I believe it is important that the public record accurately reflect how the communication occurred and whether it complied with open meeting minutes of the Brown Act. So, City Attorney, I don't know if you're allowed to comment on that.
Not unless the council asks.
Mr. City Attorney, would you like to comment?
Are you done?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, so the council member is allowed to communicate with a member of the council, and they can read that aloud at a meeting, just like any other member of the public is allowed to come to a meeting and give their opinion, either written or orally. In fact, in my opinion, I think it would have been inappropriate for Councilmember Welty to communicate his opinion to the entire council outside of a noticed public meeting. I think that would have been much more concerning than the way it was presented. So
So You don't believe?
Ma'am, there's no back and forth during public comment.
No, sorry.
That's why I asked if you were done.
Sorry about that.
Hopefully that answers your questions, and I'm happy to talk to you after the meeting to clear it up if you'd like.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. All right, moving on. Business item number 1. The only one tonight. Mr. City Manager, did you want to take the lead on this to start us off?
I would be happy to, Mayor Pro Tem and City Council. Obviously, what you have before you is the urgency ordinance. This was brought, as was discussed in that public comment, it was brought last Wednesday in a slightly different format. Hopefully, you're able to see the frequently asked question kind of format, in addition to numerous changes that the city attorney made to what was the original proposal and ordinance as compared to this one. What the staff are looking for is absolute direction here on which way you'd like to go. If you'd like to do the ordinance, the urgency ordinance, or not. But one thing I really want to make clear, because I've read more social media in the last 6 days than probably the 60 days prior. When you're dealing with something like this, that is a moratorium urgency ordinance, you're actually talking about many of the things that I have heard and seen from the public, where they say, you just need to take a breath, stop, analyze this, and see where you want to go. That is what a moratorium is. So a moratorium, the urgency ordinance, as compared to a typical ordinance, gives the council the ability to act immediately. In the event that you were to say, do this as an ordinance, you could bring it forward. You've got a week, almost 6 days for us in the agenda. Then it would be heard and decided. That would be your first reading. 30 days later, for us, we do once a month. You would have your second reading. 30 days after that, your ordinance would go into effect. So in the event that we went in that direction, you actually have all of that time for new business licenses, new whatever you wanted to do to come in place. And correct me if I'm wrong, that City Attorney, you can't undo that. If it happens in the legal period, there isn't a unspend category.
So until the ordinance goes into effect, the current existing rules would be the rules that their applications would be processed under. Any use that is lawfully established before the new ordinance went into effect would be what is called a legal non-conforming use. Colloquially, people refer to that as being grandfathered in. So that you're correct. That is why you would have a moratorium that goes into effect immediately during that study period.
So many of the questions I've received and that I saw were, why is this so urgent? Why is it that it has to be done right now? It is the method at which this is offered to, if council decided to do that thing, to immediately enact the rule. So it is not necessarily that it's an urgency ordinance because suddenly we figured out that there was this situation. It's an urgency ordinance so that it can urgently be or immediately be enacted. So I think that's very important. The other thing is a 45-day moratorium, which is what you would look at. Does that pause? It gives a chance for council to give direction to staff if there's more analysis that needs to be done, if there are more questions that need to be answered. It is perfectly normal for a council to do something like this. We've got Paris just did it. I believe Hemet just did one. Before I left my last city, there was a industrial moratorium, and it is a normal part of business for that. Not saying that this in general is normal for the city of Canyon Lake. It is a normal part of local government. The next important thing is, the question was asked repeatedly, of if it was going to affect the individual businesses to where this moratorium would make it so the business could not do their job, would shrink them, that has not been discussed with me. That is not what is in the staff report. That is not what the city attorney and I discussed. So if there is some intent for council to do that, that would be a modification to what we have. The intent that we understand is to keep the businesses as they are during the moratorium, to study whether or not this is the right number for the town center, and then make a decision after that. So I wanted to be able to explain those items, the importance of them, and what a moratorium is, so that both the public and council would understand that portion. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have, Mayor or Council.
Mr. City Attorney?
Yes, I just wanted to note that between the regular meeting and this meeting, I did go through the draft ordinance. I made changes that I believe reflected a lot of the concerns that we heard from members of the public as well as from members of the council. I provided a clean and a red line version so you can see the changes. I summarized those changes in the staff report, and I also thought it would be helpful for the public if we added FAQs or what if scenarios that we could address those prospectively instead of having person after person come up and say, well, what if this, what if that? We could address those in the staff report. So you'll see that I think we included 8 scenarios in total, 7 scenarios in total that I think addressed all of the concerns that we had heard during the meeting. I've not been viewing social media for the last week, thank goodness. So if there were other areas of concern that were coming up, I wasn't aware of those, but I do think that we've hit the big ones. Additionally, there was a lot of concern from existing businesses. What happens to my existing business? And that makes sense. This isn't a future potential issue. This is my business, my livelihood right now. So we made sure that we had very explicit language in the current version that you have in front of you, and also addressed relocation, because that was one, I think I heard at least one person come up and say, what if I wanted to relocate within the town center? How would that go about? You'll notice that there is a little bit of a buffer, and I got asked this question, why'd you throw in the extra 10%? And the answer for that was, the suite sizes within the town center are not uniform. Mm-hmm. There isn't 2,700 square foot spaces. There's some that are 708 feet, some are 720 feet, some are 630 feet. What we wanted to do was make sure that someone could go into a similarly sized location, keep the gross square footage generally contained, but give them that buffer so that they're not coming forward and saying, look, there's only one other suite available and it's 10 square feet bigger than my current one, so I can't move. We wanted to make sure that there was that buffer. So we were really trying to address those concerns. Happy to answer any questions that the council has as well.
Mr. Mayor, I have a point of order. I believe tonight is improper. First, I'd like to recognize all the people here tonight for taking your time away from your families and spending the holiday with us. Before we proceed, I want to address the process here. This is a violation against Rosenberg's rules of order per the city attorney stated that we follow when I questioned him on it. Mr. City Attorney, is there case law on this issue? Because if we act improperly on this, does it or does it not invalidate our actions? At the last meeting, the council voted on this exact policy and the motion failed under the required 4/5 vote, with me on the prevailing side. There was no request made by me for revisiting of the item on tonight's agenda. Under commonly recognized parliamentary authorities, Rosenberg's rule of order, there are limitations on bringing back a matter that has already been decided, particularly when the prevailing side has not requested it. While I understand this item is being presented as revisited, from a public perspective, this is the same policy being brought back just days later without new data or analysis. That raises concerns about consistency, fairness, and the integrity of our process. I'd like, City Attorney, your opinion to proceed any further and how this is not discriminatory against one business class over another. I'd like this to be entered into the record as I object to this process.
Mr. City Attorney?
Popular guy tonight. Okay, so I would say to address the issue of procedure, council member, the City Council adopted rules of procedure under Resolution 2019-42. It's available through the city clerk's file system online, I believe. It has its own rules of procedures. When the rules are silent, it adopts Rosenberg's rules under Rule 410. It's on page 9 of that resolution. So Rosenberg's is generally the place we look. When it comes to a motion to reconsider, the adopted rules of procedure for the council actually have their own specific rules for reconsideration. I'll read those into the record now. It's Rule 7.4. It's on page 13. Any council member who voted with the majority may move a reconsideration of any action at a same meeting after a motion for reconsideration has been made and acted upon. No other motion for reconsideration thereof shall be made without the unanimous consent of the council. So if we were working with a motion to reconsider, which I don't believe we are, but assuming we were, it would have to come from the majority. So Rosenberg's, you're correct, and I think Roberts, although I don't have it committed to memory, generally has a motion to reconsider laying with the prevailing side. However, the city's rules that it adopted reference the majority. And I think we could all agree that when you have 3 votes on one side of a motion and 1 vote on another, the common understanding of majority would be with the 3 votes. That being said, I don't consider this to be a motion for reconsideration. I understand that colloquially, people are saying, oh, you're reconsidering this. And I think in a non-legalistic way, that would be appropriate. But reconsideration is a very specific motion that goes back to and essentially erases the original. It also requires that action actually be taken. In the case of the meeting on the 11th, no action was taken. There was a motion to adopt the moratorium. That motion required 4 affirmative votes in order to pass. It only received 3, so it failed. That is not action. That's actually the lack of action. So you can't reconsider something that never occurred in the first place. Here, we simply have a new meeting that has been called pursuant to the Brown Act. I don't see any legal procedural issue that would prevent the City Council from proceeding. So I think that answers your first question. And then as far as the second question, I think I understood it, which is a legal opinion as to whether or not this is discriminatory. Was that the question? Could you maybe say it again? All I wrote down was discriminatory question mark, so.
Yes, I, again, would like your opinion. I'd like your opinion to proceed. If any further, how is this not discriminatory against one business class over another?
Understood. So, for those of us who grew up in the 90s and after, the word discrimination has very negative connotations, right? Unless you're saying that someone has discriminating taste, in which case it's generally seen as a good thing, right? What I would say is this ordinance clearly treats one class of businesses differently than other class of businesses. That is permissible under both federal and state law. For example, this city, we talked about it at the last meeting, has an ordinance on the books and a resolution that follows it up that limits cannabis businesses to having only one cannabis business that operates in the city at any given time. The City Council has selected that type of business, applied a rule to it to limit its proliferation throughout the community. All that is needed is what's called a rational basis for that. As long as the discrimination or the treating differently, right, is not based on a protected characteristic, so race, sex, national origin, things like that, the City Council can absolutely pass ordinances that treat different businesses differently than others. That's the entire point of the city's zoning code, right? The zoning code treats different uses separately from others and says where they can go, how they can operate. So that's the core of land use regulation. And as long as there's a rational basis for that treatment that's different between the two, then it would be considered lawful, in my opinion.
Thank you for that. Going back to your first one, I stated on the record the word revisiting, since that's what has been brought to my attention, both verbally through city manager and also in writing as well. And if you don't mind, I actually have Robertson's rule here, or not, yeah, Rosenberg's rule here from Cal Cities. States on page 6, the motion to reconsider. A motion to reconsider requires a majority vote to pass, like other garden variety motions. But there are 2 special rules that apply only to the motion to reconsider. First is the matter of timing. A motion is reconsidered must be made at the meeting where the item was first voted upon. A motion to reconsider made at a later time is untimely. Second, a motion to reconsider may be made only by certain members of the body. Accordingly, a motion to reconsider may be made only by a member who voted in the majority on the original motion. If such a member has change of heart, he or she may make the motion to reconsider. Any other member of the body, including a member who voted in the minority of the original motion, may second the motion. If a member who voted in the minority seeks to make the motion to reconsider, it must be ruled out of order. Is that correct?
I do believe that you have read the majority. I didn't track every word, but I think you read it. I think the part that you're missing is under resolution 2019-42. And that's, again, Rule 410. It says, in the absence of a rule herein to govern a point of procedure, then Rosenberg's rules of order shall be used as a guide. So 2 things are important there. One, if the rules that the council's already adopted speak on an issue, then the council's rules govern. The second part is it says Rosenberg's rules shall be used as a guide, right, to guide the discussion. In this specific instance, the council has adopted a rule on reconsideration. So the council's rule that's stated in that resolution governs. So everything in Rosenberg's, I would use it as a guide to generally look at how it should be interpreted, but we should be going by the language that the council has adopted. The other thing to point out, again, I think that we are colloquially using the word reconsider, but there is not a motion to reconsider that I've heard at this body. The council has an ordinance in front of it. It can call a special meeting to consider it. There is nothing that prevents the city council from having a vote on this topic under the rules of procedure or under state law that I'm aware of.
And when was 2019-42 Rule 10 or 410? When was that adopted?
November 6, 2019. It is usually given to council members upon election. I can't be certain that happens every time, but it is available on the city's website, is my understanding.
And it's to my understanding I did not receive that when I was elected. Thank you.
Any other questions, Councilmember Stieber?
Not yet.
Any other comments, Mr. City Attorney?
The only thing I would say is that if the council did believe that there was a concern that this was about reconsideration, the council could always vote to suspend the rules.
Right.
And that requires the same 4 votes to do as an urgency ordinance would. So, I don't see this as a legal issue. I don't believe that it would be used as a basis to challenge it. But if the council did want to have a belt and suspenders approach to address Councilmember Stieber's issue, it could, as part of the motion to adopt the urgency ordinance, include in that a precautionary measure to suspend any rules related to reconsideration, if that was a concern that the council shared.
Colleagues? No one wants to consider? Okay. Mr. City Manager, can you do me a favor and just tell us why we're here? How do we get here? I know there's been a lot of questions. I didn't even realize it was St. Patrick's Day until I saw a post. So I'm sorry, I got a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old and 8-year-old, so I don't pay attention to holidays. But can you just, why are we here?
Absolutely.
On a Tuesday?
Thank you, Mayor. There's a myriad of reasons. The big one is I received calls from multiple council members that wanted this item on an agenda. My concern is this is a very big item, and on our next meeting, it was moved to April 14th. April 14th is the first look at the budget, and this is an extremely difficult budget for staff to prepare. It is our job to prepare and propose a budget. It is council's job to decide on that, make any modifications that you may want, ask among your colleagues what changes you want, get an agreement there, give us clear direction on what you want coming back. It's such an important item that I even made the comment last year that I was sad that everybody left when it was budget time, because as a city manager, it's one of the most important meetings that I think any city has. And so when, I don't remember if it was the first or the second council member called me, but when the council member called, I had already talked to the city attorney and said, what day are you available? Because he's got slots, and Tuesday was a day that was available. So the first thing I said, okay, you want a special meeting on Tuesday? Are you available? And the answer was yes. I then proceeded to call every single council member and find out if they were available on Tuesday. 5 out of 5 on that short of notice is very, very rare. It worked out perfectly. 5 out of 5 were available. We got everything rolling to be able to do this, working with the city attorney to be able to create the ordinance and staff report and get things rolling.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Any comments from our colleagues as we're kind of working through this?
I have just a question for clarification purposes. So you had mentioned that we're here for an ordinance which would basically pause everything so that studying and analysis could take place over that 45 days, which essentially amounts to a month and a half. If we did not go through with the moratorium for studying, this could be agendized as a regular ordinance on the next agenda in April. And instead of a 4 vote or 4-person requirement for passage, it would only need 3?
That is correct, Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay. So the question, I guess, in moving forward tonight is, do we want the public to actively participate in that analysis and studying, or do we just put it on the agenda and move forward without as much community feedback or participation? Is that really kind of what we're looking at?
That one's hard for me to answer, Mayor Pro Tem, as to kind of which one is which. But you're absolutely correct in that they are in a different fashion. And then I go back to my answer of a moratorium is just a pause. It is just saying no more while we analyze. Council could at the end of that analysis say there is a concern. This is how we'll do it. I'm really having trouble, Mayor.
If you don't mind, everyone, please try to keep quiet.
So the council could, at the end of that analysis, say, okay, we're not going to move forward. The analysis has told us that maybe the data we thought was not correct, so we would move, or it may, in fact, prove that what the initial analysis is just a fancy word for guesstimate, as they say. As we look at business licenses and things like that, it really gets us to drill down. So absolutely, those two exist.
So the last time we had a moratorium or discussion about a moratorium was the dock ordinance, is that right?
That is correct. That was the last moratorium I could find.
Okay, and so that allowed the community to provide feedback and then staff to do additional research?
Absolutely.
And then ultimately, the ordinance was changed based on the feedback of the community?
It was.
Can I ask Josh or Councilmember Stewart, do you have an objection to more feedback from the community?
I do not have an objection about feedback. I definitely do, though, regarding the moratorium. And I would like to ask a question to City Manager if possible for clarification. After last Wednesday's fail on this item, how many beauty establishments business licenses were pulled on Thursday, Monday, and today?
I believe it was 2. Were there any additional that came in after those 2? Just the 2. Currently, there are 2 new ones that came in.
Thank you. Oh, and if I didn't answer, I can clarify a little more if you'd like.
No, my question was just kind of, since you brought I think I'm reading it as an objection to participating in the process.
I'm in objection of a moratorium, as I recommended last Wednesday. I would love to see City Manager and staff do a study, collect more data and analysis prior to us making a decision on this moratorium.
Okay, but you don't want to pause it so that there's kind of status quo for the purposes of that consideration?
No, I don't believe 2 is a sense of urgency on why we would have to do that.
Okay.
I think to Mayor Pro Tem's point that she was trying to make earlier is that, when we're looking at, a moratorium, this is obviously going to be revisited. So this is a time at which staff can further research if this is an actual issue or not. I mean, this thing could come back and you could be like, look, in the last 45 days, we've had 0 interest in folks that are trying to apply for a new brick and mortar. And, this isn't an issue that we thought. And I mean, for me, I know this item is on the agenda, not tonight, but Wednesday more so, because we got calls from business owners with complaints and residents with complaints. And I know there's 2 sides to everything. So I actually appreciate it coming to the council as a moratorium requiring a 4/5, because then it requires 4 of us to be on the same page as opposed to 3 of us. I like that. But I know that, this is one of those issues that Canyon Lake is not used to seeing. And it's, as I mentioned in our last council meeting, we're unique in this community. We don't have a planning commission, and we don't have some of the optics that other communities have. I mean, when we were looking at some of the data, when you look at just the overall amount of salons that are around cities that are close to us, I mean, we're at about 1 for every 400 people. Other cities are 1 for every 15 to 1,800 people, and that's the city of Temecula at about 75. City of Marietta at about 65, City of Menifee of about 55, City of Lake Elsinore of about 45, and City of Hemet right at about 65. So I can see why this is a conversation. I completely understand why this was brought forward, because when you look at our numbers per population, especially when you look at our numbers with the amount of land we actually have to give out for certain businesses, it's an oversaturation. And is that a problem? I don't know. I mean, that's really what we're here to discuss. Councilmember Welty, do you have any questions or any comments? I hate to call you out, but.
No, I think we're all very concerned about the health of the center. It's our primary retail spot up here, and we are very concerned as it ages that it does not become obsolete economically, and I think the careful attention needs to be paid to it. And I think the opportunity for a moratorium, it does give an opportunity to get feedback from the community. I don't work up in the center. I of course visit the center and I come up here, but from what I understand, there's a lot of feedback about people being overwhelmed by the number of say beauty salons, I think is part of the definition. I think the opportunity for the merchants in the association, the community members to come forward and have a thought-out discussion is a pretty valuable thing. And I think what we're trying to avoid here is people hear, oh, there might be a closing, so let's all run down and get these 27 licenses kind of lined up. And that's not our intent. The intent of the moratorium is to say, let's take a deep breath, let's see where we're at, and let's see that we keep our center viable and we don't overwhelm it with one product or another. And I think that's important. And if we had 30 different shopping centers and we had one in the corner, maybe not such a concern, but this is our only center, and the city, and also being part of the Merchants Association, needs to make sure that it stays vibrant and successful.
Councilmember Terry, do you have any comments?
I have a couple questions. The two business license that applied, are they also leasing a new brick and mortar? Or are they just, what are the circumstances behind those two licenses?
That's not working. Oh. They are within a suite, so they're leasing either a suite from one building or a chair.
Okay.
So they already are in a salon
Correct.
and they're obtaining their business license and going to work for an existing salon, is that
Correct.
correct? Okay. Second question is, what mechanisms in this 45 days do you vision in an effort to get public feedback? Because we're saying that this time is to be dedicated in a portion to public feedback. Do we have any mechanisms? Have we given any thought to what that may look like?
We have a lot of mechanisms, Councilmember, for public feedback, including what sometimes becomes the bane of my existence in social media and email. And it is perfectly within the council's prerogative also to do some type of town hall, community outreach, meetings, anything along that line, as well as council just being out and about. I've done this long enough to know that many of you don't get to go to the grocery store and just go pick up your items and go. You will often get input, whether it's good, bad, or compliments, disagreements, or just input. So we have numerous mechanisms for community input.
I since our last meeting, received 2 phone calls. One was not in the beauty industry. One was in the beauty industry. But based on, and this is my opinion, the amount of traffic on social media, I question why I didn't receive more calls. I'm a voting member. I know that Gus had reached out, and I made it a point to call Gus when I was in Arizona. But I would encourage more communication with council members, with community leaders, people who have the opportunity, who in my story today, I want to hear your feedback. I want to hear what your opinion is, because it's valid. We need to turn this around a little bit, and you need to have faith that, I don't know how many times Mayor Smith, Councilmember, Mayor Pro Tem Castillo has gone online and put their personal phone number out there. And I encourage you to, within respect, utilize that to ask your questions and to get further information. I do know there is a person in the audience who did call me, and we had a conversation for well over 45 minutes. I don't know what we accomplished, but it was a very fruitful discussion. We are oversaturated. If you were to take a look at, and I said that in my comments before, I'm going to be conservative. I think that 14 brick and mortars, I think, is a conservative number. Currently housing this industry. Correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I want to be told I'm wrong. But I believe that there is approximately, and I do believe it's somewhat of a conservative number, 14 buildings that service the beauty industry. In one respect, man, what a great opportunity for those who are employed, for those who are looking to operate their own business, and I truly appreciate that. And it takes a lot. It takes a lot to go from having a job and clocking in to saying, you know what, I'm going to pull a business license. I'm going to go get a suite. I'm going to pay some rent, and I'm going to make a go at this. And at the other side of that is this, and this is where I'm coming from. My number one obligation to you is public safety, is to keep you safe. Number one. You're not a city unless you can keep your residents safe. In doing that, I have an obligation to raise revenue to pay for that public safety. Portion of that lies in our business community and the revenue that we can receive. To this date, we do not have a sales tax. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that correct? Correct statement?
The city does not. That is correct.
And I've heard council members that are here tonight say in the past, they hesitate to go on that route. Therefore, it is our obligation to take a look at our business community and to see how we can, if we can, generate additional revenue to pay for those services. This 45 days, I would hope we truly take a look at not only where we're at, but where we want to go. It's one thing to say, hey, I'm going to take a look at this for 45 days. It's another thing if after the end of the 45 days, you kind of shrug your shoulders and go, we're nowhere close. So I would hope in this 45 days, if it was to move forward, and I feel confident that it will, that we really have some concrete ideas and some direction that we want to follow. This council, and I can't speak for them, I can only observe what I've seen over the past 3 years that I have been on council, is extremely ambitious. They created a fire department. You know, the issue of contract services, we'd currently be paying about $1 million more than we were had we not did what we did. The moving forward with the police department, we currently would have a contract that would have increased minimum 5% this year. Is that fair?
I believe 9% is the.
I try to be conservative, 9%, and there really is no indication that the following year that wouldn't also increase as well. And I applaud this council for their courage to make those decisions. I speak to other councils, I speak to other members on councils, and they all have the same problem. They can't afford their police. They can't afford their fire. They just don't have the courage to do anything about it. Your council did. Public safety, we've got to take a look at our town center. We've got to take a look at our businesses, and we've got to at least investigate the possibility of revenue. Now, for all of you who have, you know, I see a member here today who owns several businesses, who in turn employs people in a roundabout way who are in his, whether it be a chair, whether it be a suite, and it is a big service to our community, and therefore it would be horrible if we were to make a decision to try to eliminate anything that we don't already have. And the intention here is not to decrease, prohibit, or to minimize what we already have. So if you're here, if you are operating a business in one of our buildings, you're going to continue to operate a business in one of those buildings. If you currently have a suite or you currently have a chair, it is my understanding that you will have that chair tomorrow, you will have that chair next week, and you will have that chair after even the 45 days. That's where I'm at.
Thank you, council member.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a comment?
Yes, sir.
I'd love to let the public know about my experience, which has been a little different than council member Terry's, and I appreciate your feedback on there. First, I want to thank every single person that has reached out to me. I've received a lot of feedback. My number was probably a little over 200 phone calls since Thursday morning. And I probably had just only a couple of them that didn't know which way they were feeling. The remaining of them all provided great feedback and support, and I'm very proud to be sitting up here. Actually, I'm honored to be sitting up here representing this community. These were not just residents. These were also business owners. These were business owners in the beauty establishment. These are different business owners. These are also building owners of our town center as well. And so I just really wanted my colleagues to know, plus the public, that my experience has been very different these last 6 days, and just listening to the support that I have been able to provide to all businesses in our community. Again, I'm honored to do that. I would like to ask City Manager, do you believe the study could be completed prior to the April 14th, or do you think it would take longer past those 45 days of the moratorium?
It would entirely depend on the complexity of that study. There hasn't been direction given by council, so I really would have to know what that complexity would entail.
And when does this council tonight vote on what we are looking for in that study, or is that tabled for another meeting, or are we doing 2x2s on what's going to entail within that study?
I might be the better person to answer that, council member. Directing your attention to section 4 of the draft ordinance, I felt it was important to take a stab at including specific direction in the ordinance itself, so that it was clear. So section 4A directs the city manager to evaluate the number and location of existing beauty establishments within the city, and the need, if any, for additional establishments in light of current and projected demand and the city's broader policy objectives. Section B, it's a direction to the city manager, but the truth is it'll probably be my office working closely with the city manager's office, is to develop and present to the city council for consideration proposed amendments to the general plan, zoning code, or other business regulations, including but not limited to standards for addressing the number, location, and concentration of such uses within the city's commercial centers, including the town center, as well as potential spacing requirements and other regulatory measures intended to maintain a balanced mix of commercial services. And then lastly, to the point about public input, C, directs city manager to provide opportunities for public input and participation to ensure that residents, businesses, and other stakeholders may comment on those potential policy and regulatory changes affecting beauty establishments. I think we can come up with a draft regulatory measure by your April meeting. But I do think, like the city manager said, it depends on how complex the council wants to make this. So if the council wants a report on how many beauty establishments there are and where they're located at, that seems like something, not to speak for the city manager, that could be done relatively quickly. And if you're looking for a relatively, and this is what happened with the dock ordinance, right? The council wanted the dock ordinance to be straightforward, hit the issues and only the issues that were concerned. So there's two potential ways to address overconcentration if the council adopts the moratorium tonight. And those are both relatively simple ordinances to draft. So I think that if there was the council, and the last thing I would say is, this has come up before, it's up to the council. If the council says, city manager, city attorney, come back with this report and with this draft ordinance at the next meeting, then we will make that happen. If there's significantly more complex information that you want, then obviously that's just going to depend on exactly what you're looking for.
Regarding section 4, number B, or letter B, just for my acknowledgement, The general plan and the zoning ordinances, those were adopted in 2022?
I don't know the exact date our general plan and all of our zoning ordinances were implemented. This would generally be subject to the town center specific plan. But what we would likely do is draft it as a business regulation, which would go, I believe, in Title V.
Then on the city's website, under the planning page, there is the general plan of the town center. Can you state if that was adopted, or is that just a draft online?
So the general plan is for the entire city. I think you're talking about the specific plan for the town center.
The general plan of the town center, yes.
Okay, so the specific plan, 2022 sounds about right. I think that was right.
Yeah, it was.
But again, I don't know the date off the top of my head. So relatively recently.
Thank you, city attorney. I appreciate your feedback.
Before we go to public comments,
I have more.
do you have some more?
Yes.
How many public speakers do we have?
Okay.
Thank you.
So I appreciate both Mayor Terry, or I'm sorry, you were Mayor Terry before. Councilmember Terry
Take it.
and Councilmember Stever's feedback. My experience was different because I spent all weekend on social media, and which is fun, super fun. But it's a different way to engage with the community, and I think that sometimes you have to meet them where they are, right? If they want to talk on community pages, or tag me, or try not to tag me so I don't see it, I don't know. I feel like it's important to have those conversations, and I'm grateful that I did have those conversations. I know Alex and I went back and forth, and some other people that I had never met before, so it was a way for me to meet other members of the community. I did get a lot of phone calls as well. Something that I think the community feels comfortable talking to different council members for different reasons. The feedback that I received was from some business owners who were afraid to post online because they felt they might be bullied. That's information I got, and I took that to heart just because I think it's as important to recognize that everyone is entitled to their opinion here. We represent the community as a whole, not necessarily special interest groups, but we do have to take into consideration every group, right? And everyone's feedback. How do other cities handle oversaturation of business services? Because I know that we talk about taxing, right? And that's generally a sales tax situation. And I think we can acknowledge that businesses that are beauty establishments do have a retail component. So I'm assuming they're paying taxes, right? How do other cities who have, by and large, bigger service industries handle kind of that revenue?
Mayor Pro Tem, there is a fee that many other cities have for service industries. If that was implemented, and I don't remember what year Prop 218 was. Thank you. If that was implemented prior to 1996, when Prop 218 came about, it was, as the city attorney said earlier, essentially grandfathered. If it was implemented after that, then it is just like any other tax measure where it would have to go to the voters, and then the measure would then ask the voters to vote on a fee, which is essentially a tax on services. And so many cities have that and had that implemented well before 218, but some have after 218 gone to the voters for that.
So it's not just a potential for a sales tax, but also a services tax?
I'll let the city attorney answer, because it's a fee, but a tax.
Yeah, so it's part of those cities, and they tend to be older cities that were established, much earlier than the city of Canyon Lake. It's part of their business licensing process, and it's generally a percentage of gross receipts for services that are provided within that jurisdiction. And that is been historically the way of addressing the fact that service businesses do not pay taxes or generate revenue the same way that retail sales do. We obviously don't have that in the city of Canyon Lake.
Some of the questions that I saw online, and I think that it's important to have the community hear, maybe not just from me, was a question that if the city of Canyon Lake had recently purchased the building over to the left of us, why did the, or the building where now the school rents, why did the city rent to AMR if it's not generating revenue? Why did the city rent to a school when there were tenants there?
I can answer both questions. AMR, between myself and the fire chief, we negotiated as much as we could to keep AMR here, because AMR's option was leaving the city, going somewhere else. That directly affects the response times of AMR. If AMR goes to Lake Elsinore, add that drive. If AMR goes to Menifee, same thing, add that drive. So while it was not going to generate revenue, it literally could be the difference of saving somebody's life or not. So it was that was the reason for doing what we could to retain that.
Mr. City Manager, do you remember a gentleman by the name of Peter Hubbard? He was the former government relations manager for AMR. He approached the city back in 2019, 2020 and said, you will have a problem on your hand, and that is that we're going to move to Lake Elsinore. And so I commend the city for doing all they can to keep AMR at the town center. That was a big deal. They were very unpleased with their current living situation because they had to go upstairs. And so I know there was a lot of work done in making that happen. So I just wanted to say thank you, because I know we had to move some walls and do some stuff, and we kept them here. And how long of a lease did they sign?
5 years.
It's a 5-year lease. Thank you.
And in terms of the 31600 building,
Is that the school?
that is the school. That is something Council had given direction to look at buildings within the town center that could be acquired for purposes of economic development. When that building was purchased, there were several tenants in there. The amount of money that those individuals were paying was way below market rate.
What were they paying?
Anywhere from 90 cents a square foot to, I think the highest was just under $2. It was at a point that we know for a fact, and we found out after acquiring the building, that there was an individual living within their office. Even though that is not allowed, we are not zoned for that. The original plan was to be able to take that building, really refurbish it, kind of fix it up, and have the city invest money in it, and then bring it to market rate so that you'd have people in there. And when we were going through that process, I was personally approached by the school. I sat down and had a discussion with them, and they said, I want the whole building. What would we need to do for that? And I kind of gave a scenario and talked about what they bring to the town center, asking about the number of students, because the way economic development works is you're not just bringing that business that is sales tax, you're bringing, I hear this all the time, and every city manager cringes at this, but everybody wants a Trader Joe's, right? Give me a Trader Joe's, we're going to get all the sales tax. Trader Joe's represents $0 in sales tax. They do not have prepared foods. So when you go to our market here, you go in and you buy maybe some buns, or you buy a hot dog and you take it home and cook it. The city gets zero revenue from that. You make a left and you have the amazing burritos or the bowls or the barbecue sandwich or I could go on forever because that was one of my favorite lunch spots. You pay tax on that. So the reason cities go so hard for places like Trader Joe's is because they want something that's going to bring you to that center. And you may not provide revenue to the city through Trader Joe's, but you go to Trader Joe's and then maybe you stop by the restaurant that's next door, or you've got a store a couple places down that you go to. It's the same thing. When the school owner approached me and I talked through how big they plan to be, let's just look at 100 students. 100 students is a possibility of up to 200 parents coming over to the town center. The hope is they're going to come over, take part in this local economy, buy food, buy items, whatever it may be. So that is the reason that the transition happened from what was there when we bought that building. Individuals, and there were individuals that were very upset when the city made that decision and told me, "You don't understand, I have to move because I can't afford to pay market rate." And I understand that, but market rate is that. It is market rate, and once the city acquires a building, we cannot, because it is the tax money, we cannot essentially give favors to individuals and say, hey, this person has to pay that amount, but we feel really bad for your situation, so we're going to do that. There has to be a justification for why an individual rate would be different, and it could be AMR, we'd be willing to negotiate a little less because it is well within the city's interest to keep the response times down. Does that answer your question, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes. Another question that I received on social media, and I'm just asking this because maybe someone didn't see it. It was all week. Prior vacancies in the town center. I heard that there were buildings that were vacant for maybe 2 years. Can you explain how that is something that we need to consider or deal with?
Absolutely, Mayor Pro Tem. That is not regulated currently by council to where we say if you are a business owner and you are not motivated to rent out your building, there's nothing that council at this time has done to say you need to do that in an expedited nature. There have been businesses that have been vacant, and they're in a different position maybe financially where they say, we'll kind of get around to it when we get around to it, or they may have some other plans. And at this time, that is in no way regulated, so it is up to them. I can tell you the city, what we have done for our buildings is we're constantly discussing what the options are. If somebody wants to move in, we really try hard to give the ability for a business within the town center to move into ours if they're trying to grow, because it becomes kind of like an incubator. So we've already had businesses that have grown into larger areas. We then come after and it's the simple paint the walls, get everything going, and then start advertising. But we've been selective in some of the businesses, and that we're not looking for something that's not going to be here very long. We're not looking for something that's not going to provide any benefit to the other businesses around. It's try to feed off of the others. And so we have been somewhat selective, but we've not experienced at all a 2-year vacancy. It's been quite the opposite. We've had some turnover, move to other spots. So again, if an individual has a vacancy of that long, it's well within their right.
Another question that I saw was, why wouldn't we just apply the moratorium across the board to all businesses, service or retail? Like, why would we just worry about the one that seems to be oversaturated?
It is within council's right to regulate the zoning and planning as the planning function of the city. I doubt if the city attorney has experienced that, and I certainly haven't, where a city would say, we've got too many gosh darn businesses. It is normally a very, as Councilmember Stever said, a very discriminate look at the proliferation of individual types of businesses. So certainly it is within the council's right to analyze all businesses within their jurisdiction.
Could an economic revitalization district work in Canyon Lake? I know like Elsinore is doing Rediscover Lake Elsinore, and I know Menifee just posted over the weekend that they have a specific plan going on with public hearing for the purposes of a boardwalk. My concern is when I hear like Elsinore's doing cool things and Menifee's doing cool things, I mean, we're now going to be spending our money not here. Could that kind of utilization of CDBG money or that kind of, could that work here?
Some of that is difficult because you're talking about funds that we inherently do not rate. Redevelopment obviously was ended. City attorney may know that one as well. What year? The
2011.
2011. And the very small amount of community development block grant funds we get really are from the county saying, hey, you don't get any, so we'll give you some of ours. We don't rate some of the same ones that they do.
So there are enhanced infrastructure financing districts, which are sort of the successors to the old redevelopment agencies. They use a portion of tax increment. The state carved out tax increment that goes to schools. So they have been used successfully in some jurisdictions as a basis for economic development and revitalization, but not to get too far into the weeds. It's called tax increment financing, which means you are financing the improvements based on the increases in the tax revenue. So you have to do something that's going to increase tax revenue. If you're talking about businesses that by their nature are not taxed at the local level and are unlikely to result in significant increases to not indirect tax measures like property tax, I would say that it's not likely to be financially successful.
If we, after whatever we decide to do, moratorium, ordinance, nothing, would this process be subject to a public hearing?
That's a good question. So if we went as fast as possible and we followed the timeline that Councilmember Stieber had recommended, which was if the council did adopt the moratorium, bringing the proposed revisions at the very next meeting so that we are minimizing the delay. You still need to have first reading, second reading, 30 days till adoption, or till it's enacted, I mean. So first reading April, second reading May, goes into effect in June. You would want your moratorium to cover that whole period. And it would terminate when the new ordinance goes into effect. That's how we've done it in the past. That extension requires a notice public hearing. So newspaper on the public hearing, gavels, proponents, opponents, the whole 9 yards. So if you do pass the moratorium, expect an extension. That's part of the proposed motion. And that extension would be a noticed public hearing with newspaper notice.
So a notice public hearing that would have community feedback in favor, community feedback in opposition publicly. Is that right?
Right, and that would be in addition to whatever the proposed ordinance was. You'd probably take them both at the same time. So it would presume, based on the number of people we have here today, I would assume it would be a relatively robust conversation.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we hear from the public? Madam Clerk?
Our first speaker is Alex Cook.
Thank you, Alex, for joining us. 3 minutes, don't get mad when it goes off. It's not my fault I have to tell you to stop talking. That microphone's portable, so please don't throw it at me.
I would never do that.
Thank you.
I want to thank Mayor Smith and the City Council for letting us speak tonight and the opportunity. I also want to I talked to Josh, Councilmember Stieber, Mayor Pro Tem Castillo, and Mayor Smith in the last week, and I really appreciate you guys taking the time. I know how busy you are. You guys have careers, and so do I, so it's all good. I'm asking the council to reject the moratorium by either voting no or tabling this to a later date so more research can be done and a real plan can be put in place. Now, why I don't want a moratorium. Moratoriums are initially temporary. I get that. But in my experience, moratoriums eventually turn into permanent bans. And also, moratoriums are usually based on safety issues, not limiting growth of a profitable, successful business model that works here. And that's my biggest concern. On top of that, it's brought to tonight, I'm kind of changing and going off the thing. I know Mr. Brown is like Superman, and I know he has budget next meeting, and this will have to come back up on the meeting next April if you do vote for the moratorium, and everything has to have ducks in a row, because 45 days, you don't get 45 days, you get 27 days or whatever that math is, or it goes away. So I would like to see more research being done, adopt or talk about this maybe in June meeting when there's more time. He's trying to put a police department together. There's a lot going on in the city, and I just feel like we need to make sure we have our ducks in a row before we really put a plan out there so the community can understand. So why single out one of the most profitable and successful business models in Canyon Lake? The business model works for many people for many reasons. It encourages many people to start their own business with the ability to have freedom. The freedom to have free time to spend with family, friends, parent. A lot of these are moms that can work on their own schedule, and that's super important. Very few other small businesses offer this. Canyon Lake is a recreational community, and we all value those freedoms. The goal is to create more retail space for taxes. We really need to look at all the service industries in the town center, not single out just one that's the most profitable for both the landlords and the individuals that work in them. If we want real retail, a town center needs to have an anchor store. That's a fact. You brought that up with, right there. A real store that draws traffic. We don't have one, and we don't have the retail space large enough to offer that, and that's a big thing. I was going to talk about the Brown Act. You talked about that, so I'm not going to go into that. But I just want to remind everybody, this meeting was called so Councilmember Welty could deliberate. I appreciate it. I'm sorry you were sick last week, but I'm glad we're here. And I do not want, it's kind of weird coming back 6 days later and deliberating again. Kind of puts a bad taste in all our mouths. So it was voted on. Now it's back. We're doing it again. And a lot of people have taken time out of their day. So I please ask you guys to reject the moratorium tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Right on time, too. Next speaker.
Beth Swechty.
Mayor, if I could just remind the speakers, hold the microphone up top. The bottom is actually the antenna, so if you cover that up, you may lose a little bit.
As stated in the last council meeting, we got 2 for the price of 1.
Yeah.
So we apologize for the inconvenience.
So before I start, I want to give everybody, these are the petitions we had signed. There's 88 business owners and residents that signed it against the moratorium. What's up, everybody? You guys ready? Thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me speak. My name's Gus Lichty. I've been here 16 years in the town center. We've owned retail places. We own Wild Blush Salon Suites. There's a lot of salon suite owners here. Retail doesn't really survive here unless somebody helps. We've had Sugar Dolls here 16 years. We struggled every 16 years. We try to make it work. We had to close it down. We turned it into Wild Blush Suites. A lot of people get upset over that because we're taking over buildings. We're not here to take over buildings. We're just here and doing what works. What really works is the service industry, and that's what really survives here. There's 80% of all the businesses here are in the service industry. And like you guys, the city, you guys follow our motto. You guys get buildings. You guys make rooms. You guys have some of our previous tenants in those rooms. I know you know that, right? By the way, the urgency does not match the facts anyway. One complaint should not become the foundation for an emergency legislation affect an entire commercial sector. Like, who's complaining? Who's the one that's saying, hey, there's no parking. Hey, there's too many salon suites. Hey, everybody's too beautiful around here. Like, what's the big deal about that, to be honest with you? Yeah, I want more sales tax. I want the town center. I became the president merchant to make the town center better. I'm on your team with you, and that's all I want. But I don't want to be singled out. I don't want everybody calling me saying, Gus, they're going after you. They don't like what you're doing. There's all these little groups that are saying, you're doing too much. You're asking for too much. You're dangerous. I'm not dangerous. I just want what's best for Canyon Lake. We're Canyon Lake. We look like Sun City out there. I want everything to look better. And to be honest with you, I do feel attacked. I feel attacked kind of by you as well. You kind of tell me something and then you kind of change things. And I just want to, this is me talking from my heart. And Casey, I reached out to you. You never called me back. You say, hey, call me. I reach out to her. You never called me. The only people that called me were Jeremy Smith, Mark Terry. And Dave Welty, thanks for being here. I appreciate that. But to be honest with you, this is an attack on the beauty industry. I have all the beauticians here. It's literally a sad thing that Canyon Lake wants more tax money and they want to squeeze it from us. There's so many other places you could get it from and you have to pick us. That is not right. I think we should work together and find a solution to this. That way we don't have to put a pause on things. I don't want to grow anymore. We just leased out to a commercial baker. I could have built more suites. I said, you know what? Let's do something different. I need a break. We've been building suites, two buildings every year. I'm done. I told my wife I need a break. I went back to my career. We have a commercial baker. It's going to give you some retail money. I mean, I'm a little nervous up here, but
Hey, Gus,
it's
thank you.
just sad.
Appreciate it,
It's sad.
Gus. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Renee Griffiths. Renee.
Thank you, Renee. Floor's yours.
Thank you. I want to address the language in the ordinance stating that an overconcentration of beauty establishments threatens the public health, safety, and welfare. This is a serious claim. It's important for you to share if there are any documentation in demonstrating the harm to the public safety or welfare from beauty establishments. Nothing about this situation presents a sudden or immediate danger to public. What is being described here is an economic concern about generating revenue and the mix of businesses in the town center. And this isn't new. The town-specific plan was adopted in 2022. If the city believed the business mix in the town center was a problem, the council has had nearly 4 years to address it through normal policy process. If the argument now is that there are more beauty establishments today than there were in 2022, that should not surprise anyone. Over time, some retail businesses in the center have closed, and other businesses, including beauty establishments, stepped in to fill those vacant spaces. Would the city have preferred those spaces remain vacant? If the city believes that service-based businesses limit their ability to generate revenue, then any policy addressing that concern should apply equally to all service businesses, not just one specific industry. Because if the suites that might otherwise be leased to beauty establishments end up being filled by other service-based businesses, those businesses also generate little to no city revenue. Restricting one specific type of service business does not solve the threat the ordinance claims exist. If the goal is to bring more retail to the town center and increase revenue, why didn't the Economic Development Committee seek out a retail tenant for the property acquired in 2025? Instead, the city entered into a long-term lease with a service-based business that generates little to no city revenue. So how can a service-based business now be described as an urgent economic threat when the city itself just chose to add another one? And I agree with your decision to go with a long-term lease, by the way, because that's right as a landlord for you guys to do it. The other thing too, and I want to thank you, you actually made the argument beautiful about why this shouldn't happen and the vote should be no. I speak for myself, but I believe most women, when they get their hairs done, they get their facial, they get their nails done, whatever they do, the last thing they want to do is go home and cook a meal. So we're ordering takeout or we're having our family meet us at a restaurant because Pepe's is great, Canyon Cowboy is great, Sports Stop is great, or we're going to the market because you're right, everything is amazing, and we're doing takeout. So these businesses, while maybe not directly, certainly indirectly generate revenue. And last, I always stop at the market to buy things I would normally go to Stater Brothers for when I'm here. I also learned about Just Food for Dogs and how to spend more money on my dogs because I was walking around the town center after a facial. Thank you.
Sorry, Renee. Thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you.
Patricia Strong.
Good evening. Floor is
Hi.
yours. Hi.
Good evening. My name is Trisha Strong, and I'm a nail tech and small business owner here in Canyon Lake. I just wanted to share my experience with opening a beauty business in the town center. I recently moved here from New Mexico with my husband after he separated from the military. Like many families going through that transition, we were stepping into a very uncertain chapter of our lives. We didn't have everything figured out. We didn't have guaranteed stability, and we were trying to rebuild. We arrived at the end of August, and at that time, my husband was still in between jobs. He was actively applying, interviewing, and doing everything he could, but he wasn't officially hired until the end of October. That means for 2 full months, my business was our only source of income. And I want to be very honest about that, because I think it's important to understand what that really means. 2 months without income isn't just tight. For us, as a young couple, I am 24, my husband is 26. That is devastating. It can determine whether you could pay your bills, whether you could afford groceries, and whether you could stay afloat during a life transition that is already stressful enough. Many of those weeks, we had to choose between just one of those things. If I had not been able to open my business here in Canyon Lake, I truly don't know what we would have done. My only other option would have been to go to somewhere else, to another salon suite with a long wait list, where I could have been waiting weeks or even months just for a suite. And when you're in a situation like mine, waiting is not an option. Waiting means no income, waiting means uncertainty, and waiting means risk. Canyon Lake gave me the opportunity to start immediately, and that opportunity made a real difference for my family. But beyond just income, I want to speak on something that is just as important to me: community. Everyone behind me. A community. As a young business owner, finding a place where you feel supported, welcomed, and encouraged is everything. And through Wild Blush, I didn't just find a place to work, I found a community. A community of other women, other business owners, and people who lift up each other, support each other, and genuinely want to see each other succeed. That kind of environment is rare and is incredibly valuable, especially for someone like me who is starting over in a new state, away from everything familiar. Taking away opportunities for beauty professionals doesn't just take away income. It takes away spaces like that. It takes away safe, supportive environments where people can grow, build confidence, and create something for themselves. And it also limits Canyon Lake as a whole. I have clients who travel as far from Chino Hills and the high desert just to come here. And I've had multiple conversations with these clients about how they love this community so much that they've even considered moving here. That's the kind of impact small businesses have. We don't just serve. We attract, we connect, and we contribute to the growth of the city. So when you consider restricting new beauty businesses, I just ask that you think about the bigger picture. You're not limiting businesses, you're limiting opportunity, stability, and community for real people, real family, and real futures. Canyon Lake gave me a chance when I needed the most, and I hope that you continue to give the same to others. Thank you.
You nailed it. Thank you.
Rose? Rose?
Hey, Rose, floor's yours.
My name is Rosalia Gauna. I am a small business owner and a member of the community. I'm here tonight because a proposal, can never say that word.
Moratorium.
There you go.
I got you.
On a new beauty-related businesses, raising serious concerns not only just my livelihood, but many hardworking professionals who are part of the local economic here in Canyon Lake. I have been in the industry for 28 years, and during that time, I have worked in different locations, but I can honestly say I've never experienced a level of growth and opportunities that I have had within the salon Wild Blush Suites. I have allowed myself and build my business in ways that I have never possibly before. And the opportunities that made a big difference in me professionally and personally. That is why I deeply concern the policies that could limit the future growth. Now just for me, but not just for me, but for many other professionals trying to build something for themselves. The beauty industry is not made of mostly independent professionals. There are not large corporations or chain businesses. These are local residents, people who lived here, raise their families here, and work hard every day to build something of their own. Many of us have invested years of training, thousands of dollars into licensing, equipment, and countless hours of building a relationship with our clients. What concerns many of us is that while proposal may seem like it only affects new businesses, the real impact could reach much further. Many beauty professionals work in salon suites and share spaces. If someone leaves a suit, that space could remain empty because of new professionals would need a new business license to take over. If those licenses are restricted, it means empty storefront, fewer opportunities for local professionals, and less economic activity in our commercial areas. This is what is frustrating. This does not just affect future businesses in theory, it does affect real people who are already working hard, paying rent, creating jobs, and contributing to the community. It risks slowing growth, limitation opportunities, and makes it harder for independent business owners to succeed. The beauty industry also represents opportunities for many people, especially women, young professionals, single parents. Our field offers one of the few accessible paths of entrepreneur. It allows people to start small, grow their client base, and eventually build something suitable for themselves and their families. Policies that limit the opportunities risk closing the doors for future entrepreneurs who want to contribute to the community. Our industry also helps support the local economy in ways that may not always be obvious. Beauty professional rents commercial spaces, bring regular foot traffic to local shopping centers, and create environmental where people gather and connect. Our clients often visit neighbors, restaurants, shops, and businesses during their appointments. When our businesses thrive, the surrounding businesses also benefit too.
Thank you. You did good. Thank you.
Amy?
Next speaker.
Hello. I'm ready. Are you ready?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. I did have something on my phone, but I feel like everybody covered everything I wanted to talk about. One thing we didn't talk about was the future of my daughter, and particularly and all of the children in Canyon Lake. I feel like with this, what you guys are going to do, you're going to limit them to becoming entrepreneurs here. They're not going to be able to go get a beauty license and do cosmetology here. I eventually this will all die out, and that just makes me sad. Will my daughter even be able to take over everything I've worked so hard to build for her, my husband and I? Will we be able to transfer that license in her name one day? Or is this all for nothing? All the 16 years we've put all of our money into this town center, this community, serving all of you, your wives, your children, building so many memories with custom swimwear. I mean, all the events we've done here. I feel that you guys are targeting us. You're targeting our business. And now I kind of feel like a mama bear that my daughter's going to suffer for what you guys choose to do for the future of our Canyon Lake kids here. That's just what I wanted to say, but you guys did answer all the questions. Casey was asking a lot of questions I had. And that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about the future of the Canyon Lake kids and my daughter's future. And one other thing, these girls, when they start in our business, I encourage them to start small. Go in a 10 by 10, and then you can move up. But most of them go from a 10 by 10 to a 10 by 20 to a triple, and then they go sometimes into 500 square feet. Are they still going to be able to do that? We are a launch pad. We encourage them to grow and to eventually have their own brick and mortar, to dream big. And I feel like you guys are putting a cap not only on my dreams, but on everybody else's dreams who want to dream big and have their own salon suites one day, which many of our tenants have. I mean, look at Pure Studios, Frozen in Time. There's so many of them that have come from the suites and who have built something here that are bringing revenue and value to our community. And that all started just from our business. And I don't know. I would like for you guys to think about that and reconsider this decision that you're making. It's affecting a lot of us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Next speaker.
Sarah?
Okay. My name is Sarah Danello, and I have operated a salon business in Canyon Lake Town Center for the past 6 years, and I also live in Canyon Lake. The decision you make regarding our business community directly affect both my livelihood and my home. I want to bring this conversation back to what is actually happening. The beauty and service industry is not overcrowding out other businesses. In reality, it is one of the few sectors consistently filling vacancies, operating sustainability, and contributing to the overall activity and stability of the town center. Our clients don't just come for a service. They shop locally, dine locally, and support surrounding businesses. This industry drives consistent foot traffic and real economic activity. Salon suites in particular represent modern small business ownership. Each suite is an independent licensed professional running their own business, paying rent, taxes, insurance, and contributing directly to the local economy. These are not corporations. These are local residents supporting their families. Personally, after years in a traditional salon environment, moving into a suite allowed my business to grow in ways that were not possible before. In the past 8 months, my business has grown more than it did in the previous 6 years combined. That growth reflects client demand, professionalism, and an environment I've built. But this isn't just about me. It's about creating opportunities, especially for women, to build stable, independent businesses in a professional and respectful environment. That's why it's concerning to see these policies that appear to single out one industry while other vacancies and challenges in the town center remain unaddressed. A moratorium may sound balanced, but in practice, it restricts a sector that is already working. If the goal is true economic balance, the focus should be on supporting and attracting other industries, not limiting ones already contributing. And it's important to say this clearly. Policy decisions that impact an entire industry should not be driven by individual frustrations, including concerns over newly imposed fees. These decisions should be based on what is best for the community as a whole. There is no more than enough opportunity in Canyon Lake for everyone. Healthy businesses, communities thrive on fair competition and equal treatment, not selective restrictions placed on industries simply because they are visible and growing. I live here, I work here, and I'm invested in this community. And tonight I'm actually missing celebrating my wedding anniversary with my husband to be here because this matters that much. All we're asking for is fairness. If policies are going to affect businesses, they should apply equally to everyone, not selectively to one industry. Success should never be the reason a business is limited. It should be the reason it is supported.
Thank you so much. Next speaker.
Hamry.
Hi, I was here last week. I'm Caitlin Salon. Is it done?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Sorry.
I want to start by addressing my serious concerns regarding the city's decision to place an urgent moratorium on the beauty industry. This action feels like significant overreach of authority and raises concerns about fairness and potential discrimination, singling out one specific industry while others are allowed to continue operating and expanding creates an unequal and troubling standard. Secondly, the stated reasoning behind this moratorium is to support the city and increase revenue. However, that reasoning seems inconsistent with current actions. The city is actively remodeling a building it owns, converting it into suites, and leasing these spaces specifically to beauty service-based businesses. Additionally, the restructuring of larger spaces into the smaller units limits the potential of other types of businesses, such as retail. That may generate higher tax revenue. This appears to directly contradict the justification being used for the moratorium. I also have photos taken recently that I have illustrated that are going on with your development in your city business as we speak, that they own. This is them actively painting one suite. This is the front of one of the other buildings they own that is available to lease. So if you know anybody that would like to bring a coffee shop in, which will bring tax revenue for you guys, it's available. So it's not a restricted issue. This is the actual painting of the suite. There's another photo that didn't get printed out, but it has the actual picture of the directory that states what is currently in there, which is a hair salon and a massage parlor. So those are also services that aren't creating tax revenue. So if this is what the reasoning is, it's clearly not your objective. Lastly, I have concerns about how this situation has been handled procedurally. The use of text messages between council members during a meeting, including sharing the opinion of an absent member prior to a vote, raises questions about compliance with the Brown Act. Furthermore, proceeding with a vote, finalizing it, and then calling for an urgent reconsideration due to that member's absence does not appear to meet the legal standard for urgency under the Brown Act. Overall, this situation raises serious concerns about fairness, consistency, and proper governance, and I believe warrants closer scrutiny.
Thank you.
Vanessa.
Good evening.
I am a owner of Luxury Beauty Necessities located here in the city of Canyon Lake, California. As a matter of fact, I'm actually located inside of Wild Bush. I'm sorry, could you turn the microphone on? Oh, of course.
There we go.
Sorry.
We'll give you more time. No problem.
Okay. Wait, do you want me to start over?
Yeah, let's start over, okay?
Okay. My name is Vanessa, and I'm the owner of Luxury Beauty Necessities. I'm located inside of Wild Bush Suites. I've been established here since July of 2024. Since I opened, like many small beauty professionals in the city, I've invested time, money, and energy into building something meaningful here. While I chose Canyon Lake because it's a community that supports small businesses and entrepreneurs, my clients are local residents, families, and also visitors who come from afar. They're not just locals, they are also people who come from Riverside County, San Bernardino County, and so on and so forth. The concern I have with the proposed moratorium is how it may affect existing businesses like mine in the future. Right now, I operate in a small suite. As my business has grown, I've also planned to move into a larger space within the same building, so I can better not only myself, but my clients at the end of the day. I provide services that require equipment, and sometimes my clients come with family members and children. Having a larger suite would not only allow me to create a more comfortable and professional environment for them, but it's also going to help me to grow in the industry. But if this moratorium limits the ability for beauty professionals to move into new suites or fill spaces, when someone leaves, it could ultimately trap business owners in spaces that no longer fit their growth. Small businesses are supposed to grow. Growth means expanding, upgrading spaces, and sometimes moving within the same location to better serve our clients. If those opportunities become restricted, it could not only slow down or even stop the natural growth of businesses that are already contributing to the local economy. This also affects the long-term stability of beauty suites and small salons in Canyon Lake. If a professional leaves a space and another licensed professional cannot take it over, those spaces may sit empty. That doesn't help not only the property owner, the city, and the local economy. Beauty professionals are not large corporations. We are independent small business owners who work really hard to build our clientele base and provide services that residents rely on. My request to the council is simply that while considering this proposal, you also consider protections or exceptions for existing businesses, especially when it comes to relocating within the same building, expanding, or transferring spaces between licensed professionals. We all want Canyon Lake to thrive. Many of us choose the city because we believe it was a place where small businesses could grow and succeed.
Thank you so much. Next speaker.
Alicia.
Hello. Do you want me to go ahead and start?
Yes, please. Your time working okay? Yeah, we're good.
Hi, my name is Alicia McCarthy. I moved into Canyon Lake about 2015. So if this passes, this would mean that I can never have a salon here in Canyon Lake, which sucks. I'm a single mom of 2 boys, and within the next year here, I was hoping to do that. So without that opportunity, that would mean I would have to travel outside of the place, which takes all my clients with me away from Canyon Lake who come here and utilize all the services here. I know my clientele, as well as many others' clientele, has brought in people to move into Canyon Lake to utilize all the businesses there. I have a 9-year-old niece who her dream one day is to be a hairstylist and to come work over here in Canyon Lake. So that potentially takes that away from her, which sucks as well. I won't repeat everything everybody else said, but I support everything that was said before me 100%. And I hope that you guys reconsider that and you don't allow this to go through, because I think it really would set back the center a lot, because if we're limited, that means that we have to move out. And I think you would see a lot of the salons that are currently there, or beauty industry services that are there, start all moving away, and then you just have empty buildings. I know there's one building that's been empty in there for 2 years. I think there's 4 buildings total in the town center that are empty. I don't see a rush of other businesses wanting to come in, so I'm not sure why the salon industry or the beauty industry is being targeted. And I guess I'll leave it at that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Anna?
Yeah, she's turned it off, so yeah.
I'm certainly not an entertainer.
No, you're
so
good.
I don't know why.
You're good to go. I'll start it.
It seems like a lot of people kind of covered a lot of the same things, and a few things that I wanted to bring up. But I'm here as just a community member, a resident of Canyon Lake, and a patron of the town center. I don't have any financial interest or monetary gain with really any of the businesses. I'm not a business owner, but I do come into the town center, frequent the town center, I'd say at least 5 days a week, whether it be eating out at the restaurants, getting my hair done, my nails, other services. But I do have to say that the one thing that was brought up that I find interesting was talking about the ratio of the population to the population versus the number of salons that are here in the town center. And while there are a lot of salons and different beauty industry professionals here in the town center, all of these other communities that don't have as many, or that I don't really know how to articulate it, because it was just something that that was brought up here tonight. So I didn't really get to think about it, but I know that just from my own personal experience, going to salons and other beauty businesses outside of Canyon Lake, whether it be like Elsinore or Menifee, even Murrieta, they're inundated with clients. They're overwhelmed. A lot of people come from other cities here in the town center to get those services done, because we have that ability to take care of those clients, because there are so many businesses here. And I know that I, even as a patron of a lot of these businesses, I'm able to get an appointment within a couple of days, where rather than if I went to Menifee, I'm waiting weeks. It does bring a lot of people from other cities, and those people are not only coming here to get their hair done, they're going to the market to get lunch. They're going to the post office. They're going to the veterinary establishments here in the community because it's convenient. So while there is a lot of beauty establishments here in the community, they're bringing people from other places here as well. So I think that that's a benefit. And I think that everything else that I had to say was
Thank
pretty
you
much
so
covered.
much. Thank you. Appreciate it. Next speaker.
Tony?
Hey, Tony, floor's yours. I think the mic's on. Yep.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. I want to thank you guys for setting this up, give the community an opportunity to voice their opinion on it. I would say I would have one that is unique. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an American, and I believe in pretty conservative ideas about how businesses should run. I think the basis of this moratorium is truly un-American when it comes to the spirit of Canyon Lake and the entrepreneur spirit that is here. These girls, whether they're nail techs, whether they're hairdressers, whether they're estheticians, whether they're some other name I'm not even sure of, but my wife sure uses it. They're all entrepreneurs. And they're more so the small entrepreneurs, right? These are the hardest times to build a business. Thank God we've had support over the last 5-6 years in both of our businesses to be able to grow to the point we can sell product. We weren't a tax revenue generator. I would be surprised to find out that we aren't the largest now. So I don't like the idea of it truly based on Republican ideas and the idea that this is un-American. And it's a slippery slope when we start limiting and getting involved in the free market and the economic development that is in this city. The hairdressers wouldn't be there if they weren't being used. And just like a golf cart dealer or an automotive shop, if there wasn't the customers, it wouldn't exist. Thank you all for your time. I want to show my support for these here entrepreneurs that are putting in the hard work.
Thank you. Next speaker, Amber. Oh, shoot. I was 2 in a row. I was hoping for 3 in a row. Working?
There we go. Yeah,
okay.
We're good. Most of the stuff, like everybody said, was already covered that I was originally planning to speak on. But, and I spoke last week, so I manage Wild Blush Suites here in the Canyon Lake Town Center. I also previously owned a restaurant called Fat and Happy Pub and Grub here in the town center, so I'm familiar with different business aspects here in the town center. Hearing the girls talk from the suites, many of the girls that come here, they're coming somewhere new. Like Trisha, she came from out of state. Amber has come from out of state. Some of the women are just going through divorce and just having to get back out in the work field. And these small salons, how they get to get their foot in the door and get started back in these. Back out in the world, of the workforce. Canyon Lake gives them their opportunity here to start their business, to regrow their life, to redo that. But they start small with the hope and the dream to grow. And all of these, as other people have mentioned, there may be a lot of them, but they're all being supported because they're all successful and they're all growing. So there is a lot of community support to them. You guys, by placing the moratorium, is limiting all of these women on the potential growth that they have to develop their business and the community that's been supporting them the whole time. I think that's sad. I think the amount of women, business owners, entrepreneurs that probably start here in Canyon Lake is, I'm sure, higher than surrounding cities because of this. And I think that's something Canyon Lake should be proud of, the amount of women entrepreneurs that start and grow here. Not, I wouldn't say embarrassed by it, but not try and change that, not try and limit them and limit the growth of every business in here potential. And I guess that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Council members, any comments?
I have some questions based on the comments because I think there was a lot of really good points made, and I think everyone who came to speak, I know you're taking time away from your families to participate in this process, and I think for me that's part of the reason why I think participating in the process is so important without just making snap decisions. And because we do have the ability and sometimes the responsibility to change the trajectory of a town center. So some of my questions are pertaining to some of the comments that I heard. As the ordinance looks at this moment, there was questions related to if someone leaves, can they not be replaced? Can you answer that?
They're explicitly allowed to be replaced. That was one of the concerns that we heard at the last meeting. So you'll look at the red line language. A change in ownership, tenancy, or operation of an existing establishment standing alone where the gross square footage of the premises devoted remains the same would not be affected by the moratorium. And so that was one of the questions we heard. If someone leaves one of the suites, would the owner of the suites be able to lease it to a new tenant? The answer is yes. Additionally, they would be able to say you had a new person come in, you wanted to add a chair to an existing salon. That's expressly allowed by the ordinance as well. I know you have a list of concerns, but I did just want to sort of say, I was listening very carefully to each of the individuals who came up and told their stories. Thank you for telling them. I did not hear a story that would be prevented by the moratorium. The only example would be if you wanted to create new square footage in the town center that doesn't currently exist. And I didn't hear any person say that that was what their plans were. In fact, the one business owner who does have square footage, I think, said he was done expanding for now anyway. So I did just want to say, I heard all those concerns. I checked them against the ordinance. I didn't hear a single story that would be prevented by the moratorium as it's written.
One of the other questions I think that was just brought up was if they wanted to move from a smaller suite to a larger suite, not necessarily replace someone, but if there was a vacancy. So what you're saying is that would not be a problem either.
No, so if you're talking about, and I'm just going to use Wild Blush as an example because that's one I've heard a lot tonight. Let's say you're at one location in the town center and a larger suite that they already own and operate becomes available in another location. You could transfer there without an issue. And then a new person could get a business license and take over your old space. As long as the gross square footage of the buildings does not increase, it would not be affected by this moratorium.
Does the moratorium prevent business licenses from being issued?
It does not prevent business licenses from being issued so long as the gross square foot, I'm going to keep saying that because that's the test that it uses. So long as you are staying within, I'll call it the box of the existing suite that's currently devoted to that business, new business licenses will be issued. In fact, it requires that they be issued in the ordinary course.
One of the other questions that I have was Ms. Grant was showing photographs. Do you mind if we can see those? I thought we weren't allowed to talk back and forth. No, I'm just asking if I can see them.
Could you deliver them to the clerk and she'll pass them out to the council?
And then I was wondering if the city manager could address her comments because I've not seen that. So.
Absolutely, Mayor Pro Tem. So the comments that I think I'm addressing is, did we paint and clean up the areas for leasing them out? We absolutely did. That is one of the things that we do when a individual or business leaves. We then go in and kind of almost like a reboot, refresh, coat of paint. They're not remodels. It is really just paint and cleaning up. Unfortunately, sometimes a business may leave behind things that they shouldn't. We would clean those out. That is absolutely correct, and it was conducted. Certainly not in secret. Just what we would do every time a business leaves.
So one of the photos that she was showing was a church. Was that where the New Hope Church was? Is that church not there anymore?
The church actually downsized. They were a large portion of that building. They went to a back portion. As a matter of fact, the AMR business that we discussed, part of that was where the church used to be.
And she mentioned some of the tenants in the areas that the city is leasing. Can you describe, because I don't have a list, who are the city tenants? What kind of businesses are there?
There's a mix there, correct. There's absolutely service businesses. There is a hair salon that I believe has been there for 10 years or more. There is I believe there's 2 spa and massage locations. There is a contractor that just left one. AMR, as we discussed, the church. I believe that's the current existing tenants.
One of the comments brought up a business in the town center that was vacant for 2 years. Do you have any additional information for us about that?
I do not. I mean, I've heard that a couple of times now, and I go back to it is absolutely the right of a business owner or a building owner to put somebody in there if they desire or not. I will say I can only represent the 2 years that I have been here next month. We as a city and the individual council members have done the things people are talking about. Like, what are you doing to bring businesses here? Even going as so far as to go to Las Vegas to the ICSC, the International Conference of Shopping Centers, to start getting that kind of understanding, that research done, so that next year we will be going as part of Riverside County's group to start looking at what options we have. We're not going to compare to the large scale town centers, but what if we are able to find that right niche that wants to bring their business here? And so that's the efforts that we've been putting in to see what we can do about bringing businesses here. I have personally brought businesses in to be able to drive through and see what options we have. There was just no way we could find a way, but there was a bicycle shop that wanted to come in that would have been a tremendous resource for the city. There just wasn't anything that was available, even in the town center at all. One of the speakers, Tony Schwartzman, that spoke, I think Tony can attest to, I've done everything I can to be able to facilitate new businesses coming in and what we can do to retain businesses. So it's the same thing for our building as it is for the rest of the area. To speak to the service industry and being in the city building, I can tell you we have been somewhat selective in that there are businesses that come in and say, hey, we want to add another. One, just because of competition. It's not fair to have a building and say, great, you may not have a non-compete clause, but I'm going to put somebody in here right next to you that could put you out of business because the city just wants some revenue. So we are somewhat selective in what we're doing. We had a masseuse come in that was a direct reference from the spa health studio, and my first question to the city clerk was, hold on, have you talked to them? And she made me laugh because she said, yeah, I did. That's where the reference came from, and she thinks that she should move in because there's different kinds of, and I'm right up there with, I think it was Tony's, I don't know. I've never had a massage. There's different kinds of them. They can support each other if they're not doing the exact same thing. So we were discriminate, if you will, in making sure that anything we're doing to bring another business into the city-owned building was not going to in any way be detrimental to the businesses there, because I believe, and I know the council believes, that we owe it to them to help them be successful.
I think my last question was, how do other, and I know we're different, so we can't say it's one size fits all, but because I've never sat on council, I've never been on a planning commission in another city, how do other cities handle situations like this? And maybe it's not a beauty industry, but some other kind of industry. How do those communities kind of master plan so we don't run into an issue where variety and balance and mix are gone?
Well, I was going to start with the general plan that you had discussed, and then regular timely general plan updates, specific plans that are specific to an area to be able to make sure that that area is going to function within the zoning that you're expecting. You'd hit on the planning commissions. Planning commission is one of the very few commissions that a city will have that is not just a advisory body They are I believe it's quasi judicial body, meaning that they do actually make some level of decisions independent of the council. Because we do not have a planning commission, the city council acts as the planning organization for the city. We have not done, to my knowledge, a general plan update. The specific plan that was done in 2022 is it is not contrary to the general plan, so it did not facilitate or require a general plan update to make that change. But I will tell you, having gone through general plan updates, it is a difficult task to get participation in those because it is a very technical function, and it's much like I would assume the specific plan that you did. I was not here. It ends up kind of going through, and many times people don't, I won't say grasp, but they don't understand the complexity that is involved in a general plan or a specific plan until much later down the road.
So, to kind of restate why we're here tonight, if the moratorium that's proposed does not affect businesses that are currently existing in any way based on their normal operations right now, are we discussing normal operations right now, or are we really discussing prospective opportunities down the road?
What's on the table now is the moratorium. The best way I would explain this moratorium is...
And I don't mean to interrupt you, but the reason why I asked that is because a lot of the questions and comments that we heard tonight were from business owners that appear to absolutely love where they're working and have flourished there, but have all kind of said, but I'm going to leave there and then now open another place in another spot. And so that is my question. I think that maybe the people who are watching on YouTube, or at least maybe some of our council, because I know that Councilmember Welty wasn't here, those are the things that I feel like brought this forward, and I don't necessarily want to lose sight of what we're actually discussing today versus when the discussion reveals itself in terms of data analysis and research.
So the best way I could explain this, if you moved forward with the moratorium, is it is a temporary ceiling, meaning you cannot exceed the current number. It does not affect anything below that ceiling. So no business would be impacted to where you would say you no longer get to do business. In fact, this version of the ordinance says you can grow within your square footage. So say you had a salon that was, I don't know, 4,000 square feet, and you're currently only occupying 1,500 square feet of that, you still have growth ability within that address. This moratorium does not address that unless I am missing something.
You are.
I am missing it.
You are. So it's the gross square footage currently devoted to beauty establishments. So if there are vacant suites that are not currently being used for beauty establishments, you would not be able to expand into those.
I should clarify that. Thank you. But what I meant was if those suites are open, if you're not using it, you're only using half of it, your build out, if you will, is already done, you can grow that in. You can replace what is there. What you cannot do is, if you're only half built out, build the rest of that suite for those purposes. But just as an example, if we've used Wild Blush quite a bit. Say they're at a point right now where they have, and I don't know, maybe they have 16 suites or whatever it may be, and they only have 12 full. They're already built and ready. There would be nothing to stop them from filling out their current build out within this ordinance. It would not modify that in any way. What it would do, which is important, is if somebody was in that individual brick and mortar that was part of any one of them and they did want to leave and go out on their own, it would prevent them from being able to open their own salon. They could go from Salon A to Salon B if they already exist, but they would not be able to leave Salon A and start their own Salon C. Because if they leave, as the ordinance is written, that individual salon would be able to replace them. So that's why I say it really is a ceiling, meaning this is how many you have in terms of the gross square footage of the individual addresses at this date.
So, just my comments before you ask for a vote. Some of the feedback that I have received from community members and from business owners who are in the beauty industry who maybe don't rent from that group, I don't know where they're actually located. Some of the concerns that I have heard is that, is there going to be a ceiling on which there is no more beauty salon brick and mortars in Canyon Lake? And at what point does it become, if it's not urgent now, at what point does it become urgent? And so I think that is a question that I'm struggling with, because I certainly don't want to stifle businesses. I own a small business here and I employ 4 Canyon Lakers. I think it's amazing that people come here to open businesses. And so my question is not just, I think, my question, but feedback from the community as a whole. And that's part of the question, right? Is the 5 of us represent everyone here. Mm-hmm. And how does that question translate to action?
Your question, Mayor Pro Tem, would really be a step 2 question. So step 1, if you decided to move forward with a moratorium, would be to implement the moratorium, direct staff to do the research, and then when staff comes back and presents to you what that research is, you'd make a decision at that point to either do absolutely nothing and say that based on the information you have, we think things are fine status quo, we'll continue on, or you modify it at some point. And one of those things could be the council could say, we're going to set a number of those types of businesses. So it could be whatever the existing number is right now. It's the reason that I had said it's so important to have business licenses come in. And to Councilmember Stieber's point, my belief is that those business licenses came in because they probably were operating already, and somebody nudged them and said, you might want to get that taken care of if you haven't done it now. So that is the reason I was saying get a snapshot, because depending on what council decides, that next step, that step 2, could be, okay, we currently have, I forget what it was, 47 total with 24 brick and mortars. That may be the number that council said, okay, we're going to stick with the 24 brick and mortars and we move forward. But that's a step 2. It's not part of this current moratorium urgency ordinance.
So I have a question. So we could set the number possibly to a square footage number in the center. So we could say only so many square footage is going to be allowed for this type of business.
You could make the ordinance that explicit. I would say the moratorium as it exists now is focused on gross square footage devoted to beauty establishments.
Right.
If you were looking at a future ordinance, and
right.
We may get direction to bring that back at the next meeting, right? It could be very explicit, which is the total gross square footage in the town center devoted to this shall never exceed this number. And then however that shakes out, is that, one massive building? Is that a number of different suites? That would be up to the individual property owners and businesses to decide.
And obviously in the future, if we could always modify that number. It's we
you
vote on that number, and then 3 years later, we see a change in the layout of the center, and we say, at this time we could probably allow more. That's something the council could always do.
It could, I think that after reviewing this industry, how it operates, the gross square footage devoted to the use makes the most sense. not the number of business licenses or necessarily the number of brick and mortars, because like several of the speakers talked about, the intensity of the business can change the number. You could have one business license, but it's one chair, or it can be an entire, 4,000 square foot unit. And so I think focusing on gross square footage is probably where I'd recommend we end up.
Another comment, this is for the city manager. My feeling is that the demand in the center is fairly stable, in the sense that there may be some owner that's holding out for maybe out-of-market rent, or maybe as a personal reason for not renting that would result in a unit being unavailable for 2 years or vacant. I mean, that's potential. But as far as market rate, there seems to be a reasonable amount of turnover in our center, and I'm not, and so that's what I hear from when I go out. Do you think that statement's true, that there's a balance?
I do think the statement's true, and once in a while you'll get, careful I say this, but maybe an owner with delusions of grandeur, and they feel like their building is way more expensive than others, and so you will see maybe a longer term vacancy. We had one of those recently where numerous times I had discussions with the owner to say, I understand that your prior tenant paid way more. The prior tenant that had issues paying its bills and eventually went out of business maybe wasn't making the best financial decisions. And so let's look at your evaluation of your building in comparison to everybody else around. And after numerous discussions, they acquiesced, if you will, and now we're very fortunate, the city is, to have great businesses running in that area. So again, I go back to, it is up to the individual owner. If the market rate is set at what it is, and they feel that their building is way more, and they spend inordinate amounts of money trying to be right, that is their business of whether or not it happens. But what normally happens, what I've seen, is they're demanding a very high rate, and then the longer it goes on, the more realistic they tend to become.
Okay, and if the moratorium is to pass, the units that we're proposing to rent would not be eligible for a beauty service, because it goes out.
Absolutely not. It applies to everyone, including the city.
We don't have a sneaky road well, it applies to everybody else but us, because.
That is correct.
It applies to everybody.
And the remodeling that you saw, it happens that's why I said a reboot. As soon as somebody leaves, we go in, clean it up, and it's ready for the next item. We don't do any type of remodeling or anything for the individual tenants. That is a requirement of them to do what are called TIs, or tenant improvements. We are not part of that.
I guess my last comment is a moratorium is 45 days. It's not forever. I personal bias is I'm really careful about rules that mess with the marketplace, and it tends to make me uncomfortable. A 45-day to review something may not be a bad call, but I think there would need to be some fairly decent evidence that it's necessary to continue the 45-day. Well, let's say 45 days comes and we still need another 30. Well, that would be a reasonable period of time. But beyond that, I think we would need some pretty overwhelming data. And maybe if we look at it, and maybe we would look at a square footage for the center and expand the square footage to allow a little more space and see where that goes. But I don't think we want the whole center to be beauty supply or beauty shops. On the other hand, we need to provide an open market for our center. So it's kind of a gray area we're sitting in. There's no clear answer. So in that sense, I'm hesitant. I'd want some data before making a permanent rule. I'd want some good data before making a permanent rule. And that being said, the moratorium maybe go 45 and maybe another 30 to get the data. Probably wouldn't do a lot of damage, but I think it feels bad to the beauty people. And I understand it feels really bad. But I think the practicality of that kind of thing wouldn't really damage the businesses. But I think we need to be careful when we do this kind of thing and not just pull the trigger arbitrarily. So, yeah, I'm just saying, that's my comments. We'll let it go.
My comment would be, just how much are we going to actually accomplish in 45 days? I mean, I guess the idea is that we're taking a look at what we have existing and the impact that it has on the town center. Are we looking at alternative directions? Are we looking at a better mix of businesses? And if so, really what control do we have in ensuring that direction? I mean, I guess I'm having a problem thinking that in 45 days that we're going to come up with anything that's even going to be really have substance even to us. I would love it if we did. I mean, I spoke at the last meeting in regards to a center where people can gather. I don't think we necessarily have that now. I don't believe that we necessarily have the mix. At the same time, we're putting a segment of our businesses on hold for 45 days. And if we were to do that, then I would definitely expect, I just don't see what the end result is in 45 days. I mean, no, I don't.
I agree. I think, I look at this as not just, 45-day moratorium on beauty salons. I look at it as awareness to what we're dealing with. I think this item, I've had to spend a lot of time researching it, and I have so much respect for our business owners here on what you have to do day in and day out, and I appreciate each of you taking the time to come and speak to us tonight. And I want to thank those that also posted this meeting on social media. And I think for me, it's always been to try to get as many people involved as the decisions that we're making here at City Hall as we possibly can. Whether this is popular or not, I don't care. I think this has been, a robust conversation in regards to enlightening the community on how some of the tough decisions that we have to make, from whether it's an economic development standpoint or the idea of a sales tax. Canyon Lake doesn't have a sales tax. So you got this very conservative body up here looking at every which way it possibly can to bring on tax revenue to our community without asking the question whether or not our community would be involved and willing or to take on a sales tax, which everyone else has around us. And so, I applaud this council when they look at goal setting, when they look at opportunities to look at everything we possibly can to bring additional revenue to the city of Canyon Lake. And these are some of the tough conversations that we have to have. And we have to have them publicly with our business community. And for me, what excites me about tonight, besides the fact that I forgot to tell my kids Happy St. Patty's Day before they went to school, I just found that was happening tonight, is the fact that we're having this robust conversation and our residents are understanding maybe just a little bit some of the impacts of what it's like to try to balance a budget at City Hall and what it's like to try to do that in an environment where we don't have a lot of tax revenue that's coming in. And I don't want to go straight budget on you, Mr. City Manager, but what do we bring in sales tax as a whole for the town center? What do we rely on what we currently have?
I don't have the answer for the town center. I can tell you for the entire city. We're just about $430,000. So that means it'd be approximately 1% of the $4 million that the city spends to obtain sales tax.
So if the residents, want Red Bull and Monsters and try to sit through a budget meeting, they can see some of the stuff. And we have this pie chart on where money comes in, and it's astounding when you see, and you come from big cities, Mr. City Manager, Rialto, a couple out in the desert, so you understand the conversation of tax revenue, and you understand how cities survive based upon a Walmart coming to town, or cities survive based upon a dealership, or some of these other big growing tax revenues, which we just don't have here, right? So I think our economic team, our committee, are doing the best they can to look at all avenues. Not to say that this was their idea, but I think coming from businesses, and they're coming forward to have this conversation, these are the tough decisions that we have to make, is look at, is this something that we have to address? So for me, I think this was a win just for the discussion. I think this was a win-win tonight just because I think some of our business community got to see the stuff that we're dealing with internally. They got to see some of the tough decisions that we have to make with a industry that, in my opinion, does not bring a lot of revenue to the city. And you know, I'm very proud, you know, of some of the comments that were made tonight. And one of the comments that was made was it's un-American to look at businesses in this way, and I don't disagree at all. It's unfortunate because every single municipality, not just that border our city, but in the entire county, does this day in and day out, and they do it through planning. There's not a developer or a planner, whether they work for the county or the city of Menifee or the city of Lake Elsinore, that would ever allow this many beauty salons to exist in this type of location. Never would happen because it would be dead on arrival. And it's unique because if you ask any of my colleagues in any other city, they would tell you, why in the world are you having a council meeting on a moratorium on St. Patty's Day on a Tuesday night? Well, we have over 20 of them. And that's the shocking number when I talk to my colleagues, which I have in the city of Temecula, Marietta, Menifee, Lake Elsinore, Hemet, and San Jacinto. When I received their numbers, it was astounding. I don't think it's necessarily fair. You know, it's just the stats that we're dealing with. And so these are some of the tough conversations that I know my colleagues have been having with my city manager. But I think that this group, from what I'm hearing tonight, is, as opposed to going after businesses or looking at new ways to bring in different businesses, they would all be supportive of a sales tax for this community to generate revenue, as opposed to looking at economic developments at the town center for business growth. I don't know. It's another tough conversation that we have to have. But I think I'm just very thankful for those of you that took the time out to come and speak to us and share what's going on inside your studios and businesses. It gives a different perspective of what we're dealing with. And for me, it's tough because my wife kicked me out tonight and said, don't get rid of my hair salon, please, because it's important. I want that. I go, never do that. I know how important our business is to our community. I know how important our business is to our Canyon Lakers. 2 or 3 of us up here own our own businesses, and so I know it's a sensitive conversation, and I know it wasn't easy for you all to come up and speak tonight. So I want to say thank you for that.
I think it's frustrating. We most definitely need to take a very hard look at our center. We need to take a look at those who own the buildings. We need to take a look at what is that proper mix. What is, I question, are we punishing them? At least they feel like they're being punished. I would really like to pacify that, because I know that the intent of this moratorium is not to punish them, and that we are very thankful and very grateful that they do the job that they do, and they have been as successful as they are. They make great arguments. If there's 70 seats and let's say 2 people a seat come in to the center every day, every couple of days, and they go to the market or they go to a restaurant, I mean, that's a good thing. My question is, how, and I'm asking for feedback, how important is it to have the moratorium preventing future leases in this industry? And does that stifle any way our ability to still move forward? And because you get the gist of my question. How is there a way to accomplish what we want to accomplish in taking a look at our town center and coming back to this exact group, but with actual, factual, a game plan?
I have some feedback on that. So I think you make a really good point, right? Hypothetically, we don't move forward with the moratorium. We still come back and say, hey, we need to have a very specific layout plan, anchor store. Here are the objectives of us beyond the business spotlight, beyond the Canyon Cash, all the other things that we're trying to do, tax incentives, all those things. We're still going to end up where a population of the community feels like we're not encouraging them individually, right? So what is the compromise then? Is the compromise to avoid a moratorium and go status quo, but continue to let everyone know that our intention is mixed use beyond what we have? I mean, there's been some good points about other service industries and taking a look at those. I don't think anyone is opposed to that.
I mean, I think you take a look in the last, 30 years, very little concentration has been made towards this. This is not a problem that just rose, just came about. I know that Council Member Welty and I have met on this, and it's tough dealing with the owners. The owners, gosh darn it, when Aaron became a board member, probably that's the most they've been shook up in 25 years. And we are making progress. I would also bring up, there is light at the end of the tunnel. We're not the only center that has 26 owners. If you take a look at downtown, Old Town Temecula, they have an incredible amount of owners. What they do a little bit different is they're not just meeting with the owners, but they're also meeting with the business owners. Owner of buildings and business owners, that they have a seat at the table, that you kind of can create that momentum, and then, your guess is good as mine, can you possibly leverage that against the owners? I believe that our residents would like to see diversity. I know, and I've said it, I personally would love to have a place where, hey honey, you want to go out to eat, you want to go listen to some music, you want to go walk around the stores and entertainment. We're not there yet. I guess at the end of the day, is this approach preventing us from getting there?
One of the things I think that you just brought up that's pretty important is, so from my perspective, being on council since 2018, when we started, Jeremy and I, we were at a negative $800,000 structural deficit.
Yes.
So our priority was, let's not be bankrupt. Then that was one, right? Then the next priority, when we were able to check that off the list, was let's not go bankrupt because we are paying a fire bill that we can't. I don't like to sign contracts that I'm not going to honor, right? And we did not want to go to the community with our hands out, even for public safety. So we fixed that. The next thing that we needed to fix was the same kind of issue with the police department, and we fixed that. I don't know that it's for lack of prioritizing this issue. If we didn't have those issues, I believe that this would have been tackled sooner. And it does go hand in hand because we were able to be creative and save $1 million here and maybe $1 million there. This wasn't as top of mind.
I take full responsibility, like I said in our last meeting. I serve on this committee, and I feel like I haven't moved the needle forward. Aaron's gonna hate me for saying that, but one of the things I did think about today is that the concentration on our public safety over the last 3 years and the success that we've had and the courageousness that we've showed, I truly believe the next step is the town center. And once again, it's just a matter of fact, is this really the right step? Are we making a segment of our business population feel bad, whether that's right or not? Because I think, Casey, you made a great case that a lot of the comments, this would not affect them. You know, they would be able to continue to do business the way that they have. I guess my only question is, can we do both?
Josh, what do you think? Because we haven't heard from you in a while.
First, before I address your question, and I appreciate that, I want to let the public know I appreciate all of you coming out tonight. You know, you're missing time with your families. You're missing time enjoying the holiday. Sarah, you're missing time in your anniversary right now. And it's just brave of all of you to be able to come here and provide your feedback. So I appreciate that. To address Mayor Pro Tem, it was a question / what are our thoughts? I really want to stand firm from one of my 2 recommendations from last Wednesday of stating I completely agree, most likely with my team, that a study needs to be done, and direct city manager and staff don't know what that length is, don't know what that criteria at this time is going to entail, but I think as us policy decision makers, I just don't see a moratorium being placed when we all agree we want city manager and staff to be able to look into this a little further. So that was my recommendation last week, and it's going to be my recommendation again this week.
Is a compromise not a moratorium, but a finite date to bring this back?
I, as your city manager, take direction from the council. So if the council says, we're not doing a moratorium, but we want basically everything else, everything that's listed, we want staff to research and bring back at X date, it is our responsibility to do that. The Councilmember Terry asked a pretty good question of what are we going to come back with, and is it going to be far more robust than the information that you have now? And we don't know that until we start getting in to make the sausage. We really could come back with laying an egg and saying, we don't really have anything. That's not our goal, but you may have the things you've discussed so far, the per capita comparison, the numbers we have. That may be your data that you work with. The analysis, we could go a little more in depth of what the approximate total square footage is of the town center and how much of that is represented. That's the stuff we'd be able to concentrate on. That may help you make your decision. But one of the things that you may find also is whether you did a moratorium or not, continuing that outreach to see if there are perspectives that maybe were not shared with you or were not shared with staff to be able to provide to you, that may be part of your decision-making process. So we absolutely could take direction. We can bring back what council wants, whether you decide to do a moratorium or not.
Does that quell some of your concerns?
Mic's off.
It does. I think that this definitely needs, as a council, once again, I gotta be careful. One of the things that I appreciate over the last 2 years has been our singular focus on one goal. Identify what that one goal is and then go after it. And, if I was sitting with any other council right now, I'd probably have absolutely no hope, right? I would just be sitting there going, we're screwed. But this is such a capable group. Dale and I have gone down this road. We haven't gone down this road with Aaron. I think Aaron would be a huge difference in the experience that Dale and I have had in the past. But I think we definitely need to commit to taking a hard look at what we can do. I'll give you an example. This is what a recommended mix of a successful center. 50 to 60% of your center would be restaurants, food, and beverage. 10 to 15% would be entertainment. 10 to 15% would be retail, boutique, experimental. That's kind of where our beauty salons would fit. 10% would be office. 15 to 25% would be residential, and 5 to 10% of that area would be then committed to a public gathering space. I apologize for our forefathers. Had a developer come in here, one developer, and had he taken this property, he would never have, he never would have handled business like that. And we have had developers here. And the first question they ask, correct me if I'm wrong, how many owners are we dealing with? 26. They're gone. So we really do have to find that mix where, gosh darn it, we're relying on ourselves. We're actually getting some buy-in from these owners. Once again, I don't want to make, I don't want to give an aneurysm to my city manager, but I do think that business owners need to start getting involved in the, and I'm not talking about building owners, I'm talking about owners of businesses. And tonight, I think we've heard from a segment of those business owners. And Casey knows me very well. She was trying not to make eye contact with me, and the reason for it is because I love success stories. I love hearing people compete.
Coach?
Yes. And yeah, I'm having a difficult time because I love passion. And you guys are screwing everything up, but
that's why they're here, man. It's good stuff.
But you're actually being very, very successful. One of the conversations that I did have is, do we embrace it? Do we get out there for right now and just put on our new board, hey, beauty capital of Riverside County? We got better looking people than Lake Elsinore. Come over here. Right? I mean, if that's what we have right now, a smart business owner would say, well, how do I capitalize on that? Mm-hmm. At the same time, I'm going to be very honest with you. We've got to get a better mix. And that's what we're going to end up doing, is sitting down there, and if we can, we've got to get some anchors. And the anchors help everyone. And that's a very tall order, is it not, Councilmember Welty?
Yes, it is.
It's an extremely tall order. But I agree with you, Mayor Pro Tem. The reason this is here is because it was identified in a strategic planning that this has got to be one of our top priorities. And I hope you understand that we've got one town center. How many does Marietta have? How many does Temecula have? How many does Menifee have? They have 50. Real easy for them to say, oh, only one hairstylist, only, no more massage, right? Because they got 50 of them. We have one.
Yeah.
Well, and another concern that I think if we're explaining hard truths is the greater number of people, it's going to fall on them to support the community. Like at some point, if that's what we have, that's what we have. If that means that we're, using those service industries to support public safety, that's what we have.
And great point. And I hope our audience understands that. I tried to, maybe it was a little off base, but, the number one concern I think we all agree up here is public safety, keeping your residents safe. That is not a free service. And the reason that this is being brought up is we have a particular industry, a very successful industry, and it makes up a very large mix. I don't have the exact percentage down, but I just went over how that mix would look in a successful center. We're way over that mix. And I think that's to your point, is it not? No?
No.
Did I miss it?
If nothing else, this conversation, the conversation that we've all had online, the conversation and phone calls and personal contacts that you've had, the emails.
Which, by the way, I feel very bad. He got 200 phone calls. I got 2. Step up your game.
Facebook messages, whatever. This is, I think, probably one of the first times we've had an economic discussion related
Correct.
to the interior of the town center versus, that citizens initiative that was tied to cannabis. Like that was city-wide, that was brought forth by that group. That was very different than saying, what can we do here internally before we go externally to our community? And so I think maybe that's why, and I will say, I was one of the people who asked for this to be brought tonight or close in time while the conversation was still fresh. It's because we have to have these conversations. They're tough conversations. We all have other jobs. Sometimes our jobs suck. This is one of the times where this job sucks. It's not great to tell your community, we're going to rely on you, just like you rely on us, to make decisions. We need the feedback. We have to have these conversations.
Mayor, if I may.
No, you may not. Yes, go ahead, Mr. City Manager.
One of the very difficult parts of economic development is it becomes a belief that economic development means going to land the big stores. And sometimes a natural part of what is seen as economic development is almost overlooking the existing, paying less attention to retention, and putting all of your efforts into the girl that doesn't want to go to the dance with you anyway. What I get all the time is, it would be really nice if we could get a Starbucks here. I don't think SIPs would agree with that. They are a new business. Starbucks has a lot of requirements of what they would want to do. And one of the first things they would say is, that store needs to go, that needs to move, that needs to go. Economic development is not going to an event like ICSC or going somewhere and saying, hey, you're with me, and coming back. I wish it was. it is about planting seeds. It is sometimes none of the individuals in an administration or in a council will be around to see the fruit of what was planted. I've seen almost 20-year relationships. I'll tell you, it's a different scale, but it works the same way. One of my responsibilities when I was at the city of Palm Springs was the Palm Springs Airport. There was an airline that we had tried everything. You know, we danced, we sang, whatever they needed to do, threw our hands up. We had absolutely no hope. We started growing leaps and bounds. All these other airlines are coming to us. We're going crazy, and then we get a call. Hey, we want to get on. We had done nothing at that point for probably 2 years. Hey, we want to get on board, and they're a big name. And we get to laugh and say, oh, yeah, look what we did. At that point, we did nothing. It was everything that was done before. It was the growth that was invested into the other businesses that made them want to be a part of it. So economic development is not, that's why I want to set the expectations. Economic development is not landing your well. It is planting those seeds, doing what you can to retain business and make those other businesses wonder why they missed out on that opportunity and want to be a part of it.
I'll make a recommendation.
Wait, I think Josh.
Oh, Josh, sorry. Councilmember Stieber.
Mine will just be real fast. I really wanted to provide or obtain feedback on a recommendation with a slight modification based off the staff report. When you look at the staff report's recommendation, there's kind of 3 sections of the recommendation. I'd like to see 1 and 3 be striked and 2 be modified. Because I think we all agree here that we would like to direct city manager to provide some form of a study, a report. I don't know if we're going to get to it by April's, because that's less than 30. It's less than 45 days, but definitely less than 30 days. My feedback that I'm looking to obtain from my colleagues here is what's something that everyone might have an appetite on when we expect city manager and staff to be able to come back with that form of a report.
My comment is, I think the city manager, I think city manager agree that let's not squeeze him too tight over the next 30 days. He's got a budget to do. I think if we were to look at it, we would, what's that, June, 60 days out?
That if I may make a request, June would be the most convenient, because we've got our first look at the budget, and all of us, staff across the board, this has been our sole focus. You've heard my 2:30 a.m. story of going through every aspect of the budget and being back at it at 6 in the morning the next morning. We've only got so much, and this has to be the concentration, because no one is unaware that we lost UUT. So we have to do the same things we've been doing as a city and continue to operate with less revenue, not more revenue. And if you look at the totality, so it is, we're getting creative, and every department is looking for where we can get more creative. So as we finish that up, bring to you the first look at the budget in April. Hopefully we have hit the target for what you're looking for, and there will be minor, if any, changes for May. The budget would be adopted in May, bringing you to June, where we could do an analysis of a new business item or bring back an old business item to be able to discuss this.
So you listed numbers. I don't know if I'm seeing what you're looking at.
Under the recommendation, there's 3 parts of it. 1, 2, 3. So striking 1, striking 3, modifying 2, which I'm open to June per Councilmember Welty and City Manager's guidance there.
So the compromise is don't impose the moratorium, do the research, bring it back, not long-term, but fairly short-term.
That is correct.
Can I ask a question? Is the research focused on beauty establishments, or is the research focused on the commercial areas of the city and looking at potential regulations that would support a greater mix or preventing overconcentration? It would be helpful to know, what are we being asked to research?
That's a great question, City Attorney. Based off just this agenda being regarding around beauty establishments, I would be okay. But if my colleagues think that we should take a much larger approach, which maybe City Manager, you might have chime in and give one more additional month out of that one, if we're looking at all the business. But for the sake of the businesses that are focused on this moratorium, I think June suffices. But I'm willing to listen to my colleagues if they would like to expand on that, if we want to do a whole town center of business, all the businesses in the town center.
Congratulations tonight, folks. I think you just saw, in my opinion, how public policy is supposed to work. I don't think tonight there's going to be a motion on the item, and I think that's a good thing. My recommendation tonight would be, there was a comment that was made tonight that stuck with me, and if you know me, you know why this comment would stick with me, is because someone tonight said that the city has a lot going on, like the fact that they're starting their own police department, and that's a big focus. I cannot sit here tonight feel comfortable if we're going to look at a plan for the entire town center when it comes to economic development or whatever it might be, knowing that our start date is August 1st. Can't do it. So for me, it's very simple. I think tonight's exercise, for me especially, was needed. It showed how I believe local policy should work. It shows how members from the community come out and spoke. And I just want to say thank you for your comments tonight, because they were, for the most part, very respectful, and I do believe that most of you spoke from your heart, and that always works with me. But I think we should move forward with an internal plan, Mr. City Manager, working with our business community, working with our Merchants Association, to look at some of these hard conversations and not be afraid to talk about it anymore. I think that this needs to be an item that we look at in the near future, and I don't want to set a date to June. I think that's unfair. I would like to see this item move forward with real discussion, because we've had homework, because we've had time where we've sat down with multiple facets of business, and we've come together with a new plan on how we can not just help each other from a city side, but also look at new opportunities for the town center. So I would be, I would not feel comfortable putting a time on it and saying this needs to come back with real thought and energy spent by June. I would look for a later date, especially after we start our police department. I believe you'll have a little more time on your hands, Mr. City Manager, when you can successfully say that, Chief, it's on you now. And I think that's when we can start looking at a single source item, which is the town center, like Councilmember Terry said, where we can focus on that and brainstorm as a team with the business community and also the Merchants Association to say, okay, what's best for Canyon Lake? What's best for our current businesses, our incoming businesses, and what can help us on all facets? And I think that takes more time than this. So for me, this was a great educational experience, and I want to thank, again, each member of the public for coming forward. Thank you, Mr. City Attorney, for educating us on how a moratorium works in a municipality. But for me, I think my direction, if this council wants to second it and move it along, would just be that we take a hard look at the town center as a whole, our business community as a whole, and we use our resources to try to help, as opposed to going after one or one entity. We do it as a whole, collectively as a group. So that would be my recommendation.
And just to emphasize something, and emphasize that we work with the business community, the chamber, the Merchant Association, that we have we work with them.
Yeah, and the POA, and we make sure that we're, I called almost all the board members before this meeting, and I have so much respect for our POA and just what it takes to do the job, and getting to meet what goes on at the merchants. That was an education process for me too. So there's a lot of entities, there's a lot of stakeholders, believe it or not, in such a small community, and I think we all need to be the best we can. We're going to disagree sometimes, but I think we need to be on the same page. So I would just encourage that if we're going to do this, we do it right, and we do the proper type of study where we include all those different entities. We invite members of the public to come forward to really allow them to speak like they did tonight on the importance of surrounding the city with making sure that our businesses are successful.
May I make one more comment, Mr. Mayor?
Please do.
I want all of you to understand that the intent here was to do everything that we possibly can to create revenue before the sales tax.
Yeah.
I know for a fact that I probably need to be careful about who I say, but I know that one council member who may or may not be our pro tem worked so very, very hard to make sure that every avenue, every effort was made to do that. That's why we're here. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Not to additionally be a dark cloud, I'm pretty good at it lately. The fact is, we will also have that budget meeting. So we will have additional information. I don't know what it's going to be because I don't have a crystal ball. But that budget information will also be very relevant to this discussion, I think.
Yeah,
Yes.
I would agree with that. Any further comments from my colleagues? If not, I'm assuming I'm not going to get a motion on this item. Going once, going twice. Since I did not, the item dies.
Mayor, before you adjourn, could I make some comments at the end?
Absolutely not. It's been 3 hours. I haven't peed yet. Go ahead.
I wanted to specifically address the Merchants Association and a lot of what was discussed. As Gus mentioned earlier, he's the president of the Merchants Association. I made the motion to make him the president of the Merchants Association, and I think it was the right decision. That's somebody that has a lot of passion for the town center, for what we're doing. We're not always going to agree, just like the five of you are not always going to agree. There's going to be things that we're never going to see eye to eye on. I may stand on an island because I do not agree with certain things, just like others may. But the reason I made that motion is because I saw what he was doing. I saw what he was doing for the town center. And who better than somebody that wants this town center to be successful? So I wanted to make sure that it was clear that there are times that Gus is going to speak as a business owner. There are times he's going to be speaking as one of the members of the Merchants Association. But at all times, it should be a pretty similar perspective. And that is, how do we, as the Merchants Association, work alongside you, the city council, and as you said, the Chamber of Commerce, with the sole goal of making this town center successful? Because if the town center is successful, it then in turn feeds up to the city. And so I wanted to get that out there and make sure that there isn't a division within the Merchants Association board, other than I happen to disagree on an item, and there are going to be times that they disagree as well.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get that out there in the public record. And thank you for letting me do that, Mayor.
Of course. Thank you, Mr. City Manager. With that, I'm going to adjourn this meeting at 8:58. Thank you, everyone.